believe we're expecting Bridget on Google Meet, but I don't see her yet. So we will, if she appears, someone let me know. Our first agenda item is public comment. We have, public comment emails have been posted. There were 10 emails. 6 were about the 6th grade agenda item, and 4 were about IRV. If people would like to, so next we're going to go to people in the room, and then after in the room, I'll play the 2 voicemails we received. So the first person is Carla Reed McNally. Come on up. You have 3 minutes to give your public comment.
Sounds good, thank you. My name is Carla. I'm a resident of Amherst, and I also have 2 children that are part of the Fort River Elementary School. And I came here tonight because I wanted to give feedback regarding the joint regional meeting that took place on Thursday, December 11th. I was taken aback and disgusted by the discussion surrounding JK 88 regarding the use of restraints in seclusion rooms within the district. I'm sure the majority of parents in Amherst are not aware that Amherst School District was operating outside of the state law regarding the use of restraints and seclusions since 2021. When this was brought to the committee's attention asking for an emergency vote to bring our schools up to compliance, the discussion took an unexpected turn. It went from what seemed like initial support of passing the measure to a discussion about if it passed that evening, the schools would then be held accountable to the law the following day, and that would be not fair for them as they would be unaware of the law. So instead of the discussion turning towards how can we get everyone up to compliance, it centered around staff being held legally responsible to the law and how that was not fair to them. I was shocked to hear our school committee talk about protecting teachers and staff over protecting their students. And I'm grateful to Deb and Bridget that they were part of that meeting and that one of them could offer their personal insight with the seclusion room at Fort River. It made me wonder how many people in that meeting had ever stepped foot into Fort River's seclusion rooms. I imagine it would be very hard to pass a policy when you've not seen the space that's being referenced in it, nor that you ask for feedback from the parents who have personal experience with this. I am the face of this law. My family is directly impacted by the use of restraints in seclusion rooms at Fort River. And it's come to be that my family has hired an outside advocate to address these concerns. And then after listening to Thursday's meeting, we're now considering hiring an attorney to protect our child and their rights, as it seems the Amherst schools are not in the business of doing that for us. The use of restraints in seclusion rooms has been on my radar for a while now. Back in May of 2025, I contacted DESE's special ed department asking questions regarding the laws surrounding them and what the districts are legally required to do. I followed that up with an email to the Fort River interim principal at that time, letting them know what the expectations were going forward. I asked when the time comes for the district to re-examine the restraint and seclusion room policy for the upcoming legal changes in the summer of 2026, that they allow the parents of those who have direct experience with them to be a central part of that discussion. There are many parts of that policy that I disagree with, and I want to offer my personal experience to the committee so that you have a greater sense of what that looks like in actual practice and not what it reads on paper. I can assure you, it feels very different when you're on the other side of it. While listening to Thursday's meeting was heartbreaking and infuriating, it made me feel more empowered than ever to hold this school district accountable for their actions, to not only protect my child, but all the vulnerable children who don't get a say in this matter. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that, as you mentioned, that was a joint meeting of the Amherst Regional and Pelham School Committees, and tonight you only have the Amherst members, so I would encourage you to send your comment also to the Regional School Committee and the Pelham School Committee. Next is Nick Yaffe.
And then you're speaking to people over there too.
Yes, you are. Thank you. Actually, can I ask you to pause for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to say, Bridget, hi. Can we just make sure that you can hear us and we can hear you?
I can hear you. Thank
Great.
you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks. All right. Go ahead, Nick.
So switching topics, I'm speaking about the 6th grade and why the 6th grade should actually continue with the plan of moving to the middle school. And I've been retired as a retired principal of Wildwood. Last spring, I had the privilege to work with the administrative team at Fort River. And so I'm familiar with the 6th grade teams at each of the schools. I've spoken to Dr. Z and Tanya, and I'm very excited about the 6th grade and the possibilities of 6th grade and what it means. And the fact that they're adolescents and they're moving into this phase of life where they need to be re-excited about school. And Tanya has worked really hard to develop a plan that I think you've all seen that really provides a framework for them to what we would call lead their own learning. And it's very important for them to be in a place that's new for them. For the last many years, we've developed a sixth grade departmental model at Wildwood, Fort River, and at Crocker Farm that, in my mind, has worked well and could even flourish even more at the middle school. And my vision for that would be that it would provide an incubator for new ideas for the middle school itself. And so there would be a synergy that would happen with the sixth grade and the seventh and eighth grade teachers. This would not happen if it's moved somewhere else. Besides the fact that the district and our teachers are ready to take this on. So with Tanya's plan as a framework and then bringing in the sixth grade teachers, I think something exciting could really happen there at the middle school. The last thing I would like to say is the fifth grade students have already met with the superintendent, shared their ideas. They're very excited about it. Tanya's worked out a plan where they're going to draw on having languages. You all know about that. So I think it would be really detrimental to undermine that. So when we're ready to launch it. So thank you for listening. And like I said, this is an opportunity for Amherst to change the narrative around sixth grade, around the middle school in a very, very positive way. So I encourage you to stick with the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Gontar?
Hello, my name is Alex Gontar. I'm a resident of Amherst with a child attending kindergarten at Crocker Farm. As with seemingly many families, I learned of the item under discussion regarding the sixth grade Commandantez in Crocker Farm yesterday afternoon, though there had been rumors over many months before. I also learned of the details of tonight's presentation late this evening. My understanding is that it was posted after the 3 p.m. public comment deadline. There's a proposal to vote on this massively impactful change, potential change to our town and schools on such short notice with very limited public input is deeply concerning. I was further concerned looking over the documents in the short time I had that there was very little information on the budgetary impact of the changes, along with the details on long-term outcomes for Commandantez, the impact on space and special education across the district. Without those critical pieces of information communicated clearly to the public with time and space given to discuss seriously, I can't weigh in on the merits and details of the proposals, and I don't believe other families are able to either. So operation in this expedited manner undermines our public trust and faith in the stewardship of our schools. So I please encourage you on purely a process reasons alone to vote no on moving forward with this proposal at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to give public comment? Okay, I have 2 voicemails. Oh, hang on 1 second. I don't know if this is going to freak out my Google Meet, but we'll give it a try. That's what's doing it, but let's try that again.
Hello, school committee. This is Casey Maloney. I'm a town resident and parent of a kindergartner at Crocker Farm. I'm calling in today to submit a comment in regards to item F on tonight's agenda. While I recognize and am sympathetic to the challenges and extreme gaps that we now face with the current budget for fiscal year 27, I do not think it is appropriate to be throwing out potential cost-saving options that involve displacement of entire school communities or potential overcrowding of schools at this late stage. This is certainly a case of a rock and a hard place, but please take into account the amount of planning, time, and preparation that families need when facing large transitions. My understanding is that the current population of Crocker is supported well by the building space, and adding the entirety of the sixth grade academy to the school would stretch resources for service delivery to the limit. An option like this takes time to research, consider, and solicit community feedback on. I urge you to please refrain from voting on this issue tonight. I request that the school committee draw up a strategic overview of the various options with pros and cons for parents to weigh in on. These options can include moving the sixth grade to Crocker, but should also consider maintaining the sixth graders at both elementary schools and moving them to ARMS, as was the original plan. Sunlight is needed on a
Seems to have gotten cut off. It seems to have gotten cut off. My apologies. Here's the next voicemail.
Hi, this is Farah Amin, 57 Glendale Road. I'm calling today to express my appreciation for Herb Rhodes, who has dedicated decades to serving our youth, school community, and town. Herb has done so with respect, patience, and love, always keeping the best interests of our children in mind. For most of my family's 15 years living in Amherst, I've watched Herb rise to the challenge on countless occasions, sometimes in the face of criticism and ridiculous attacks. He has never wavered from his goals, serving our school community. As the parent of a sophomore, I have been grateful for Herb's voice and guidance on the school committee. Thank you, Herb, for always being principled, reliable, and honest. We are sorry to see you go. Thanks.
All right. That wraps up public comment. Our next agenda item is approving minutes. We have one set of minutes to approve from the November 18th meeting. I move that we approve the November 18th minutes. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded, moved by Jennifer, seconded by Sarah. Any discussion? Since we have one member virtual, we will vote by roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Deb?
Yes.
Jennifer's a yes. And Bridget?
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Thank you. The next agenda item is warrants. Warrants have been posted for your viewing pleasure on board docs. After that, we have accepting gifts. I will move that we accept the following gifts from Martha Ulver, number 9971127, 9971148, and 9971169 to support Crocker Farm at Principal Discretionary Fund for a total of $30. From Anonymous to support Family Engagement Holiday Drive McKinney Vent / foster care students, Amherst Schools -cash for a total of $20. And from Anonymous, Family Engagement Holiday Drive for McKinney Vento / foster care students, Amherst Schools, 22 gift cards at $25 each for a total of $550. For a cash total of $50 and a gift card total of $550. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Deb. Any discussion? So we will do another roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Deb?
Yes.
Jennifer's a yes, and Bridget?
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you so much to the gift givers. We really appreciate your generosity. The next item is the Amherst K-6 restructuring update. Dr. Z, would you like to introduce? Or I'm not sure if it's Dr. Z or Tanya.
Sure. Good evening, everyone.
Oh, no, sorry. Hang on a second, Dr. Z. We're having this audio issue again.
Not
Hang
personal.
on. Tanya, can you say something?
No, we did this last time.
Well, we're going
Can
to
you
try.
hear me now? Hello?
No,
But Megan fixed it.
we thought we did. We tried fixing it.
Didn't that just work for Bridget?
She figured Yeah. out, fixed it that night.
It did. Bridget, you, okay, hang on. Bridget, can you try?
Hello?
No.
No,
Yeah.
that's so weird. Okay, all right. We're gonna pause for 60 seconds to see if Seth can fix it. Okay. We tested this before the meeting began.
I know, we heard.
And we just heard
we
Bridget, so.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, Dr. Z, try again.
Hello, hello.
Yay!
Thank you, Seth. Whatever you did, it worked. Thank you.
Good
All right.
evening, everyone. Thank you for having us this evening, and I think I have some members in the audience with us as well. So one, for the community, what I would like to know is that my update from the district will now just be like a running document so that you can see the progress of our work. And we will continue to update this document. So it starts off with November. We're going to start with December 16th. So scroll down, Shannon. And here this evening to provide an update on the construction of facilities, we have Shannon and Mike Gallo. So I'm going to hand it to them.
So, Mike, I was hoping that you would do the beginning of this presentation around the current construction.
Yep, that's fun. So the construction is proceeding on schedule still. This week, they're going to have the window installation complete. The rooftop units have been installed. We took a tour this week, actually. The facilities team took a tour of the building to look at the systems like before they're wrapped up behind walls, and so that just happened today, actually, and it was really great to get our crew into the building to know what they were looking at, to like be able to ask questions of like the electricians and the plumbers and the HVAC people. So that was really helpful. We're gonna have some more training with them, as time goes on, but it was nice to like have our team get into the building, and they're all excited to get in there. It looks very different than our buildings that we're currently in, that were built in 1967. So that's definitely exciting. They're going to continue with accelerated work to make sure they stay on time with the project, which is going to include doing some work on the photovoltaic parking lot portion over the winter break, and over probably all the school breaks as that continues. Let's see. And we're currently discussing with the project management team procurement services for moving from the new building, from our older buildings into the newer building. So we're working on the scope, planning the scope of that procurement with them, which we're hoping to have that go out to bid in February, which really speaks to the timeline that we're on. So we kind of need to have finalize some decisions soon. There are a number of things in place, that need to be in place for the project to stay on track. That being one of them. So we're really getting down to the wire on those decisions. Yep. So there are more pictures of the schools. They're working on procuring furniture and fixtures and equipment for the school. Technology bids go out in January. And yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to that, Shannon?
I think that covered most of it. We're hoping that in our next meeting, in terms of the move, that we'll have some more definitive information ready for the bid. So that was our big deal for today. So with that, I think we can move on to the next, unless Dr. Z, you had anything else you wanted to add.
I think that for us, in terms of the 6th grade academy, thank you guys for jumping in for the K-5. There's some parts that we need to, as a team, we have already laid out tentative physical layouts in terms of the middle school building. However, we did delay having the conversation with the present middle school teachers based on Section F. We did not want to cause any undue stress to them in terms of the possible relocation. So we we plan to finalize and have a discussion with them in terms of the layout and get their feedback so that we can finalize the other portions of it in January. Moving on to staffing, we'll start off with budget development, and so I'm gonna hand that over. Our initial staffing numbers have been developed and we're current in the budgetary review stage. Our staffing projections are complete. We started off with what the ideal staffing would be, and then now we're looking at programs. For us, our goal is to inform staff by March 2026 of placement possibilities. This is progressing as we align with budgetary discussions and projections. Shannon will talk about that next in terms of later on in the agenda. We started our MOU discussion today with the union around moving days, and that conversation is ongoing negotiation. So once finalized, we'll share that. But that was really a productive conversation today. And so for us, I'll hand it over to Tanya and her team around academic planning. Or actually start this part. So summer programming will be held at Wildwood. What we want to make sure for this summer is that we want to allow for summer maintenance to occur at Crocker Farm. We've had years of projects projected for Crocker Farm, but because of how our summer programs run, we were unable to implement and finalize those. So this summer, we're actually making sure that we are able to put forth and provide adequate summer maintenance to Crocker Farm, as well as at the middle school. So Tanya?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everybody. As you know, we have already taken a look at the sixth grade schedule. We're now looking at K-5 schedule, and there's a sample draft for you there, making sure that everyone gets all the things that they need. It's important to know that it is K-6 restructuring because the curriculums align, all of our staffing and programming aligns. So you'll notice it's the same kind of curriculum materials that are going to be used. It's the same attention to writing and math, reading, all of those things are in place in the schedule. Again, it's draft. There's going to be feedback and tweaks given. As we take a look at the rest of what's listed there, we're right now moving into our training, our PD for our new curriculum, our extended curriculum. That happens tomorrow for most elementary teachers. And I think, Celia, you'll come on to talk a little bit about Comanantes as we scroll the other way. Right. So as you look at Comanantes, Comanantes for sixth grade is already listed there. We have a cohort of students that are currently in Comanantes in fifth grade that will continue to the sixth grade academy. And we're increasing just slightly the instructional time that they get as they speak in Spanish, in social studies, as well as culture, heritage, and language. I'll pass it to Celia to give just a brief overview and highlights for what's happening K-5.
Good evening, everyone. And so my name is Celia Sinkowski, for those of you who haven't met me, and I'm the MLE administrator. And so with all of I know everyone has a lot of questions about the future of the program, and all of our plans involve Caminantes. What it looks like may look differently. So as of right now, we have 50%, starting in grades 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 as of right now, we have 50-50 language allocation, where we currently offer SLA as well as social studies and science. We have a 90-10 language allocation in kindergarten and first grade, and we are moving towards grade 2, 80-20. And so we are planning to continue all of those language allocations, but the way that it may look, we may have to reimagine what it looks like with the new building and the scheduling. And so as of right now, we have...
Celia, hang on a second. We're getting some feedback.
Mike.
This one?
Let go of it. Oh, no. It stopped when you touched it.
Okay, Celia, try again. Oh,
So with the future of the program,
Turn off that
Celia, I'm sorry. Hang on a second.
Just turn off that microphone.
We could just move it. We could just,
Nope.
We're going to pause again for 30 seconds to see if we can figure this out.
Is it better now?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Celia.
Okay, and so currently, when we look at the scheduling in Caminantes, so as I was saying, K through 1 is 90-10 language allocation, grade 2 is 80-20, and then 3 through 6 is 50-50. We currently have a model 3 through 6 where students are offered an SLA class, which is Spanish language arts. They are also offered science and social studies in Spanish. And there may be some changes. We have to reimagine what that looks like with the new building and everything like that and all of the changes. But we are planning, we're going to maintain the integrity of the program. It's going to probably look a little different, but our goal is to continue with the program. We're even looking at what it's going to look like for our cohort moving into the middle school. So it's not going to be Caminantes per se in the middle school, but we continue to plan a path for those students that were in Caminantes to continue their Spanish growth. And so offering an advanced Spanish course so that those students do not have to start in Spanish 1 again, which is the normal track for students that take a world language in the middle school, as well as offering a social studies class. So we want to continue that 50-50 allocation. And then we even have a long-term plan, what kind of that would look like in the high school. Because in the high school, we do offer advanced Spanish courses as well, with the goal in mind of offering this, every student passing the seal of biliteracy. And so what it looks like in Caminantes right now may not look like that in the future with these changes, but we want to keep the integrity of the program.
Celia, I'm sorry. We have to interrupt you again.
Celia, can you try talking for a sec?
If you switch the box, did you switch the cable? Could you run a new cable?
That's actually a really good point. I don't think they did switch the cable.
What cable do you
do we
need?
have extra?
It's USB to USB-C.
USB
USB-A to USB-C.
A to C. I don't think I have. I traveled late today. A to C?
I have one in my car.
I
know
don't
if it's a
have one.
specialized C2.
Tanya, you want to try?
Well, that
Yes,
sounds good.
thank you again, Celia. And what I'll do is I'll just go a little quicker. We have Stephanie Joyce on the line who's working with us with curriculum, and Jennifer Reese on the line who's working with us with curriculum. We appreciate both of the work they're doing, and also just the innovative ideas as we think about sixth grade. It's an opportunity to expand science and social studies, and the great continuity and coherence that's happening with our K-5 system, as well as our sixth grade being in one building. We're really excited about it. I'm going to ask Joanne Smith to come on up and talk to us a little about special education before we pass it back to Dr. Z. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Joanne Smith, Special Ed Administrator. I work primarily with the elementary schools. Thank you, Tanya, for the opportunity to provide an update. The slide is not clear in the way I didn't give timely feedback, but I just wanted to clarify that all students in sixth grade will be receiving the special education services and supports that their families, the teams, and the IEP reflect. We wanted to also clarify that with the district programs for students who are in the elementary aims, ILC or building blocks, they will continue to receive specialized programming support in sixth grade through the equivalent program. Many of those students have already been in the program at the elementary, so it's just a natural segue, and they're actually familiar with other peers in those programs when they get to sixth grade. We have been meeting regularly with the district program staff. I so enjoyed this morning hearing from the teachers talking about how excited they are to have the sixth graders join them. And there was particular emphasis on how much we were looking forward to the students in sixth grade having a longer experience and an opportunity to be in this middle school for 3 years, so that first year, while it's supported within sixth grade, they're able to adapt, and then they'll have ample time with the staff really having developed deep, rich understandings of them and the relationships which are pivotal. So we are excited about that, and I will add that in terms of looking at the new school building, Allison Estes and I were able to go visit a similarly designed building by Dinesco in Lexington, and it was an amazing opportunity to visit and envision how the layout would be for all of the students, general ed, special ed, Ls, Cominantes, and yeah, a lot of exciting, but a lot of work ahead, but a lot of excitement ahead as well.
Thank you, Joanne. We are so excited around our innovative and creative and just a wonderful opportunity for our kids in Amherst School District. Dr. Z, thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you to the entire team under Student Academic Success for your work. The next part of our update is we would like to take this time as a district to talk about the considerations regarding the discussion around relocating the sixth grade academy at this time. The district, coming into this district, there was a plan presented, and the team, the entire team, the team that's present, took time to kind of work to pull together all factions of the plan, all pieces of the plan, and to make sure that we present it in a way that aligns with what the expectations of the community, and more so making sure we took into account teacher voice, student voice, and parent voice. For us, the first thing is planning and timeline considerations. At this point, 6 months in, it is very critical to talk about all of the things that would go into shifting the move of a sixth grade at this time. And so I'm going to start off with Shannon talking about the budget and staffing. The timeline does not allow as a community, for the community, for parents, for students to all wrap themselves around any possible shifts. And more so for us, if there's considerations for the district, we would prefer that we move forward with a plan as is and find adequate time to plan for future, and take the time to develop a plan that will not cause us to have to upheave where we already are with the successful execution of the reconfiguration model that's been moving. Shannon?
Yes, so some considerations in terms of the budget if the Crocker Farm and Cominantes in the sixth grade went to Crocker Farm is the special education programmings for the sixth grade. Right now with the plan, they would be in the middle school where we already do have staffing that could have split FTE within the region and Amherst. If they go to Crocker Farm entirely, you have to have all the programs set up with staffing for those programs there. So I did not do the math for that, but I just know a 1.0 versus a shared FTE, it would be significantly more. There's also an issue in terms of some of the programming and students that have physical needs, that the layout of Crocker Farm, in some areas, specifically the bathrooms, is one space where some remodeling would have to take place in order for it to be suitable for their needs. Um, there's also a transportation piece, and that I do have a firm dollar amount because I know how much it costs per bus for the upcoming fiscal year. But students would have to then be picked up all across Amherst and be brought to Crocker Farm. They wouldn't be able to be picked up on the current bus and or the buses that are going to the new school, because there wouldn't be enough time to bring them there and then go to Crocker Farm. So there would have to be additional buses. How many, I don't know without getting into the logistics, and we didn't get that far yet. But I do know the cost per bus is 83,000 or so. Whereas at the region, we already have routes covering across Amherst that they can trickle in on those buses. I'm not saying that there might not need to be an additional bus with that. That is still in the works. But I do know we will likely need, if there's 144 students in the 6th grade plus Commandant's, it would be multiple buses. So that's a big cost for the Amherst district that will add up very quickly. And the level of staffing, we didn't dive into the weeds of just yet of what that staffing would be required to do that programmatically at the Crocker Farm. But we would no longer have these split FTEs that we're able to do with the 6th grade and the middle school when they're at Crocker Farm. So those are some of the things that we would want to consider, and I did outline those as part of this presentation.
Thank you. And I think you said something critical, Shannon. One of the things that ended up happening in this, as you scroll up, one of the things that ended up not too far, you went too far. One of the things that ended up happening in this conversation, and it's a bullet that we had there, is detraction and delay. Taking the time off to actually start to, as a district team, figure out if we are moving, spinning our wheels, continuing to do things, answer questions, address concerns. Like, this has caused that, not just for us as professionals, some questions and confusions, but for families, as well as even for students who have approached myself and different staff members around this. So this has caused a level of detraction and delay, and it will cause a severe pivotal shift. In terms of, we were not clear because we were not informed prior to us posting this, what the location may be. So as a district team, we analyzed what the possible locations may have been. We wanted to input why we heard rumors of what it was, and we developed our considerations around them, but we still weren't 100% sure. So we did put forth, for example, the limitations of Wildwood. Although we will be using Wildwood for the summer, Wildwood is not a viable long-term alternate location for 6th grade. The facility has years of deferred maintenance. It was included in the MSBA's plan as a school designated for closure, which that's how we ended up with, I guess, our version of a mega school, and it does not align with the long-term facility planning or capital investment strategy. That brought us to Crocker Farm, and I believe Derek is in there, and so we're going to allow, as the principal and even a long-term employee who has, I feel like, the most knowledge around Crocker Farm, to talk about the limitations and even the capacity breakdowns around this.
Okay. Is the microphone working?
Yes.
Yes.
So I sense some tension. Maybe that's the first thing I should say. Anyway, I feel a little uncomfortable talking about this. So perhaps the next slide, I think there's a slide up there that talks about Crocker Farm. All right, so I'll just give you some context. My name's Derek Shea. I'm the principal at Crocker Farm. This is my 16th year as Crocker Farm, 15th year as the principal. I'm about to retire at the end of the year, so I care deeply, even more than if I was coming back. I think Crocker Farm is a 60-year-old school, the vast majority of it, and it was built in 1966. The reason I know that quite well is that's when I was built, was 1966, so I'm acutely aware of the wear and tear that takes place in 60 years. Crocker Farm needs a new roof, a new playground, it needs a new asphalt, a piece to the playground. There's all sorts of stuff that needs to happen, but that's a shameless plug for the future. So Crocker Farm is a school redesigned, I think, in 2002. There's currently 25 classroom spaces available at Crocker Farm. It's a fairly simple mathematical formula. 6 of those classroom spaces, and Elizabeth Burns is here and perhaps could come up in a second, 6 of those, quote, classroom spaces are currently used for the preschool. The other 19 available spaces are available to the K through 6 Crocker Farm population. So a couple of things. I think when I'd said that Crocker Farm was built in 66, I think education has changed a lot in 60 years. And the way the school was designed and built 60 years ago was not in mind with the beautiful schematic design that we see for the brand new school, right? With all of these like beautiful rooms for band and orchestra and ELL and special education and all these beautiful little pulpit rooms for parent meetings and various other pieces. We do not have all of those at Crocker Farm. We are very limited in terms of what we can provide for spaces. Our band and orchestra people conduct their instrument lessons in a tiny little quadrant of a space right across from the custodial office. They use our community room on days when we're not using that room, or they use the stage or something else. So again, 60 years ago, they weren't thinking the way that you're all thinking now in terms of designing a school. So it's cramped. I have been at Crocker Farm when we were at, quote, capacity. And I have a little bit of a worry about this idea that capacity is a good thing. I think we're running at, quote, 90% capacity right now. I think that's the sweet spot. Like once you start like making the school just 100% capacity, there's no room to move. So currently we're using 16 classrooms. And when I say classrooms, I mean rooms that are designed 900 square feet approximately for classes. And we use the other 3, quote, classrooms to divvy up space. So I'll give you an example. I was doing a presentation in Dr. Herman's office today where our fabulous ELL team splits a classroom into like 3 different parts so that they can teach our MLL learners and teach them beautifully. They need that space so that when they can have to do their pull-out lessons, they can do it. They don't have their own space, so we use a classroom to help sort of split it up into 3 different parts. So again, we're trying to improvise. I think if we go to capacity and we start doing this thing where 19, 20 classrooms are used, and I was there when that happened in probably around 2015, 16, it starts to feel really claustrophobic. People are in carts, kids are getting taught in hallways. It's probably not okay, and it's not fair given, you know, all the bells and whistles that we'll see at the new school. So I'd be apprehensive about adding further students to the school. Right now, with preschool there, we have about 375 students, which probably makes us, I think, maybe the largest school in town in some way when you add in preschool. The last thing I would say, right, and I think Elizabeth could address this if she feels comfortable stepping up here, is that the emerging needs of preschoolers, post-COVID, but even before COVID, is very different again than what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I think what's happened in Elizabeth, I'll say this politely, Elizabeth's preschool team is starting to take up more and more space in Crocker Farm every year, and rightly so, because they have various support services that they need, and we've been trying our hardest to provide additional spaces, hence the reason that they use room 24, hence the reason they get a little space upstairs in rooms 205 and 206. Those preschool needs are not going away. They're only going to increase. So again, if we're going to start squeezing, you know, higher numbers of K through 5 or 6 in there, I would be terribly worried. I won't be here for that, but I would still be concerned as a citizen of the town. Elizabeth, do you want to speak about pre-K, or since you're in the neighbourhood?
Yes, please.
And I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Yes, please. And we had a data chat today as Elizabeth transitions up. And in the data chat, we were able to discuss some of the data around how the students in preschool are doing. But one of the key things we talked about, and Elizabeth is excited about, is looking at how the students who attend our Amherst early education compare to their peers in terms of not just behavioral, because preschool is more than play, but even in academics. So it's critical for us to talk about, when we think about the impact of preschool, how the transition meetings, how the students move into kindergarten, the critical work that's done at our preschool is pertinent to why we need. And I think we need to be clear on how they actually operate at Crocker Farm. So Elizabeth, and thank you, Derek.
So, sorry, we're going to pause for 1 second. it was doing it again. It wasn't as bad, but we're just going to do the unplug, plug thing again. Well, I don't know if they can. They can, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Okay, all right. Well, I took a few quick notes after Derek said maybe I'd love to, I'm really excited to have this opportunity actually. And I did this evening when I got home from work, I watched the school committee meeting from last week just so I would have some background information. And luckily I had my data chat with Dr. Z and her team today, which has some of the data fresh in my mind. So I wanted to sort of talk about, and I just noticed up on the slides, there was something about preschool having a wait list and that we could expand. And so I just want to clear one thing up that I think will be really helpful around expansion and probably what looks like a really aspirational goal on that proposed school development plan. So what I want to talk about is not that aspirational big, that was like our hopes and dreams for the, Cadillac model of preschool that we'd love to have for our town. I want to talk about an acute need that we're finding ourselves in at the moment, which is much different than wait lists. We're always going to have wait lists. So we're one of the only free or affordable options in the town. We're always going to have a wait list, and that's not what I want to speak to. What I want to speak to is our actual legal mandate to meet the needs, that the early childhood special education needs set out by the state and by DESE, and our legal mandate to do that. And so one thing that I want to touch on is that I have been working with Joanne. I've started making my class list for next year for 26, 27. And the reason I have to do that is because, a couple of reasons: to be able to advocate for a program, but also to be able to understand what our needs are going to be and to plan in advance and to write IEPs. All of our services, our classroom services and hours are written onto the IEP. So when I'm looking at the class list for next year, it's now December. So we've got January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and then all of next school year that children can be referred. For next school year, I have 11 spots for children with IEPs. And when I say spots for children with IEPs, DESE does set out an actual ratio that I have to meet. So this isn't, this is 7 children with IEPs, 8 without, a teacher and 2 paraeducators. And just a very quick, I don't want to take up too much time, but a very quick understanding of the students that we're meeting the needs of. They're students who are going on to the Intensive Learning Center, to the Ames program, to Building Blocks, who are needing paraeducator support in school to be safe in kindergarten and beyond. I also heard I don't know if this is fair to say, but I heard some talk in the last school committee meeting when I was watching it about, making sure that this improvement plan touches on our marginalized populations, the people who are out there and who need to be taken care of. And you're getting emails from them, and there's groups of parents, and they're advocating. And I'm advocating for a group of parents and children who aren't able to be here because they don't know about this. They don't have the capacity to be here because they are working 3 jobs. English is not their first language. They're maybe not comfortable. They don't trust schools. So I'm advocating for them. And I want to explain, in our data chat today, I shared that 66% of my students are from multilingual homes. 19% of my students, their parents identified them as white, non-Latino. We have an incredibly diverse population. And I know it was mentioned that if we're going to expand preschool, and I'm using that in quotes because that's not what I want to do, that we're not considering towns like Leverett and Shutesbury. I don't know as much about those towns, but I do think it's a different need there than what we have in Amherst. And so when we say we want to grow to meet a legal mandate, not expand. I want to level services, as they say, right? So if I can't do that, and if I'm actually not only not able to expand, but being asked to work in a smaller space, the children are going to get less before kindergarten. We know that 90% of brain development happens by the age of 6. I just want to say that. This is early childhood for these children is incredibly important. we've been very creative. It's the last thing I'll say. We've been incredibly creative about meeting kids' needs without putting them in a classroom. We have kids walking in for services, for example. We have multiple children having therapies at once. I don't know the plan, but I can only imagine that a plan to have 6th grade and Commandantez in the building would mean we are going to be having children having therapy in the hallway. We are going to be having children having therapy in my office, in courtyards. I don't know where else. So I did just want to let everyone know that, not expanding or even asking us to contract even smaller would be catastrophic, and I'm not saying that in a dramatic way. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So we,
Thank you, Elizabeth and Derek. Dr. Z, sorry, 10 seconds. All right, try it again, Dr. Z.
we?
Good.
Okay, awesome. So we do have additional information in there, but I really want us to go into the next steps and open up to hand it back to the chair in case there are questions for the team. So in terms of next steps, the next item on the agenda, we're talking about the school start and end times, and I'm bringing forward an operational concern that has prompted this discussion. So we'll be coordinating with the town around traffic and scheduling analysis. We will be working on our staffing and budget finalization. One of the things is that we agree that by mid to end of January, we will have a logistics timeline. So we're working with our OPM, we're working with our team to get that all together so that we can share that with staff. And that's around staff. Like Mike talked about the moving RFP, making sure things are in place. For community communication, we are going to share out in meetings with parents, different meetings, they want some specific timelines of events. So it's our goal to finalize by the end of January, early February, and have that shared with parents so they can know when open houses are, when we would have like possible orientations. And again, that is fluid, but we want to start communicating that with everyone. And then implementation planning, just continue where we are, continue to maintain our school committee updates on the planning process. And like I said, this document will be updated each time. So in January, we'll be adding to this document and having a January update so that everyone can see the progression of our work. So thank you for allowing the team to come in and provide an update, and we're here for questions. So Jennifer, I hand it back to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to do one round of questions and comments, and then I'd like us to move on because we have a packed schedule today. I'm going to start with just 2 things. First, I just wanted to suggest, Dr. Z, I like the idea of the rolling update, but I wanted to suggest that you put the most recent update first, and that they're in reverse chronological order, so that when you open the document, you see the most recent update. Just a suggestion. And second, I wanted to inform the committee, there's a note on here about the district negotiating an MOU, or a memo of understanding, with APEA regarding additional work days for teachers who are moving classrooms. Dr. Z contacted me on Sunday asking for a committee member to just be present for that MOU because there were budget implications. And because it was short notice and I knew my availability, I just appointed myself to be the school committee representative.
Great.
Okay. I'm going to go to Sarah first, and then we'll do one round of questions.
Okay. I want to thank all the building leaders for coming and speaking tonight. I don't think I have any questions for you in particular. I believe we'll be discussing this proposal in more detail later in this meeting. But I thank you for all your input so far and responding on short and incomplete notice. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. Deb?
So Jennifer, when you say one round of questions, do I get to ask all my questions?
Sure.
Okay, great. So, love preschool, support preschool, no intention. But one of the things you said, I think when you spoke in the spring, it might have been April, Elizabeth, is that you had heads up that the number of students you are increasing. So I was wondering if you have any insight into whether or not we will mandatorily need to add an additional preschool class, so a 6th preschool classroom, or if you do, when that would be.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, if I get another 11 students between now and September, which I can't imagine that I won't, it would be really incredibly unusual that I wouldn't. Referrals of children who need a special education placement, we will be full in the fall. So, or sorry, in August, September, we will be full already. By full, I mean we're going to have to, in order to take on more students, we're going to have to take one of our classrooms, make it shorter, and put a second slot in there so that we can fit more children. That would be 7 more children that we could put there. So I have, obviously, I don't know every child that a pediatrician might recommend have an evaluation. I don't know every child who might move in.
Right.
It is, a bit of a guessing game, but I would be, I'm willing to say, in my professional opinions and experiences, that we absolutely are going to need a 6th classroom for next school year. In fact, Joanne and I have even talked about if we might need to find an alternative to get through this school year. For example, seeing if some para educators can run an afternoon play group or something to get us through until next year. So yes, unless the proposal is for me to give the students that we have less than we're currently giving. So yes, we're going to need another classroom.
And
100%.
okay, thank you. That's been on my mind for a while.
And I'm happy to share with you any data and numbers if that's helpful for why.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I also wanted to know, one of the things I can't figure out, I'm a numbers person. So 75 I've heard, but DESI lists 50. Can you help me? And then somebody said, well, maybe that's students who get services. Can you help me figure out those numbers, please?
Yeah, so preschool is incredibly complicated. I will be the first to admit that. I think it has to do with when SIMS data is put in. It has to do with how children are coded. So we have 75 children registered currently for preschool. They are getting some of them are getting what is called walk-in services. So that means their parents are bringing them in for services with us, and that's either because they don't require a preschool classroom and we're trying to reduce the amount of children in preschool classrooms for obvious reasons, or their parents have chosen not to put them in one of our preschool classrooms because they're going to a private center or an insurance-based center such as Autism Care Partners, for example. We also have a group of students who we have a contract with TDS who provide speech and language therapy to children within their community preschools. So those children have to get registered with Amherst Public Schools to get those services, but they might not be coming to the school. So it depends on how they're coded in the system. Does that make sense when they're registered?
Of course it does. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I have questions for other people.
Go ahead, Deb.
One of them was about the MOU, so thank you for that. One of them was, I have a bunch of questions about caminantes. There's, in the draft ed plan that we had from September, there was one of the 8 cohorts was listed as a caminantes student, as a caminantes classroom, as far as I could tell. But then we have a rising number. There's the 5th graders the 5th graders moving up are like 2 classrooms full. Tanya, can you help me figure that one out? Maybe I just misread the packet. I don't know.
So you see only one classroom right now because due to attrition, sometimes we don't get that number. So we are staffing it for 1 classroom, but with extra adults. The Caminante Spanish-speaking teacher, as well as our gen ed English-speaking teacher.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Then, can you help me also understand the 50-50 model for the 6th grade program? I mean, I'm hearing advanced Spanish, which is fantastic. And I'm hearing social studies in Spanish. Are there other classes that are being conducted in Spanish?
Sure, it's the Spanish language.
Sorry, Tanya, I have to ask you to pause for another 10 seconds. All right, Tanya, go ahead.
Can you hear? me?
Yes, Tanya, you can go ahead. Or
I was
Dr.
going
Z.
to say, I think we just need to be mindful of if we unmute when someone else unmutes, because that seems to be also triggering.
I don't think that's it, but thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Tanya.
Okay, I was going to say, I tried to pause. So the sixth grade Spanish courses, yes, social studies, but what we're doing is providing, rather than just have Spanish in science, or SLA in science, we're doing social studies so we can get culture and language literature in there. So you'll notice on the original, Deb, to your question around the 8, section 7 is the cohort that it was, to look at what would happen with that particular section around their Spanish allocation. 50% of the time in the content is what we're referring to. So K-5, it's easy to say these 2 classes out of the 4 classes. But what we did was put the time in terms of instructional minutes. So you'll look at the social studies course, but you'll also see that there is Spanish language and culture, and then the Spanish literature course that's on there. And then we also have PLT in Spanish, and then we also have advisory in Spanish.
Excellent.
So the minutes equaled 610 versus the current 600 that current 6th graders at Fort River are getting right now.
You also said that, I think Celia said it, that you introduced SLA in the 3rd grade in Camenetes. Is that correct?
That is so SLA is just, it's a Spanish class instead of ELA.
Yeah.
And so because the class goes, the allocation goes from 50 to 50-50, you have to be intentional. So SLA is the class.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be the content, social studies and science.
One of the questions that's come up recently in another context is whether or not we have support for students in SLA. Pull-out support, or is that provided in the classroom? If somebody needs services.
So we currently have at Fort River an SE teacher that does speak Spanish, but we do have supports in the classroom as well. So we have 2 assistants from Spain that we currently have that help in small groups. And then we also provide paras that speak Spanish. So all of them speak Spanish in Caminantes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I could refine my question. So if somebody is not progressing as we would hope in SLA, in the content themselves, what services are available to them?
So I'm going to jump in here and say, Deb, that if you're asking, the question that you're asking, Celia did answer. But I think what you're trying to ask, and I'm going to ask you to clarify, is, are you speaking of if a student with an IEP has specific struggles, what services we offer?
Well, not exactly. So if somebody taking a dual language program, well, okay, so in English, if their MCAS score, if they're judged in whatever form to not be progressing appropriately, there can be an IEP written for that need in English. Is there an equivalent way of addressing that student's need in Spanish?
So you're asking about interventions, and
Yes.
Okay. So, and that's not solely for children who have IEPs.
Right.
However, specifically, we do have Tier 2 reading interventions.
Thank you.
And I believe Celia was tapping on that, where she says that we also have para-educators and other educators who speak the Spanish language to
Right.
provide that support.
Tier 2 support.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have math intervention.
And you have math. Excellent. Thank you. That really just helps me understand the program when I'm out speaking to the community, because there's just a lot of information wandering around there. I guess the last, no, that's it?
Great.
Oh, no, one more. Sorry.
Last question. Thank you, Deb. Go ahead.
The lease and the budget for The sixth grade academy, where are we on that? You wanted to go back and reopen up the regional agreement, Dr. Z, so that in order to update the regional agreement before the lease was written and signed, and I thought it needed to go to DESI this month, and I thought Shannon said that, or you said that Shannon said that we needed a budget for the sixth grade academy this month. So where are we on the lease, updating the lease, getting it to DESI, and getting a budget for the sixth grade academy?
Sure. So the December deadline was actually an internal deadline that we had set amongst ourselves. In meeting with DESI, we confirmed the actual deadline. So the commissioner would have to present the lease letter from the region. The region is actually who submits that to DESI, and that would be presented probably in June or May. So we actually are on track to have that discussion. We've already had a tentative conversation with the town. However, we need to, and this is an Amherst meeting, we need to go back to the regional school committee around the lease language from the regional agreement, as well as what my suggested next steps are in the first year. So the idea is to have that lease finalized. We worked it out with the DESI team. They would prefer to have the lease in hand at least by the end of April, early May. That gives us a great working timeline so that their legal can review if there are any edits, and they can come back and request that of us. But they really need that at that time. So we are on track.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I'm going to call on Bridget next, but we're going to do a 10-second break first. Okay, Bridget, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I have two questions. The first one is for Joanne. And basically, Joanne, what I understood you said was that the sixth grade special education programs, like the specialized programs, Building Blocks, AIMS, ILC, that those students will be integrated in with the programs that are in the middle school. And so when you're talking about that, Shannon talked about some savings that will be realized through that. And then I just wondered, as you're doing that, will you be able to maintain that 1-to-10 ratio of special ed teacher for each of those programs? Or to integrate the sixth grade, will we have to increase? I remember at one time there were 2 special ed teachers, for example, for AIMS, and then later there were 1 or so. Like, I'm just trying to get an idea of the balance there.
No, thank you, Bridget. I really appreciate the question. So in terms of the numbers and the ratio, that was, we're meeting on a regular basis with the program staff at the middle school. Tanya was able to join us today, but that's certainly with Juan, Jessica, the program teachers, Doreen Reed, the director. And the elementary numbers are typically a ratio of 1 special ed teacher to 10 for AIMS and Building Blocks. When you look at the intensive needs program at elementary, we could go up to 10, but what we have determined is the most appropriate is about 8. So then when we meet with the middle school staff, looking at the maturation of students, the growth, and hopefully the emphasis towards some level of independence, they were able to clarify numbers a little bit differently. In terms of the middle school equivalent, it's still a 1-to-8 ratio. In terms of the AIMS program at the middle school, it could certainly go up to 15. And the same with the SSP program. Now, those programs are not projected at those numbers right now, but the one place where that ratio is creeping beyond is the intensive needs, which it's called ESP, and it's transitioning to another name. The short version is LIFT. Yeah, thanks. And so we've been looking at additional staffing that would be needed there. That was already needed, I would say, at the region, and that by adding the additional students, which is only a couple right now, we're not looking at any significant increase from that perspective, Bridget.
Okay, super. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad that the middle school teachers feel excited about increasing their caseloads. So, but I do think that that is one thing I heard from a lot of people at the middle schoolers, like you just have them for 2 years and it's like a blip. So
Yeah.
I can see both sides there. Thank you. My second question is for Celia. And basically
Hi,
you,
I'm here.
hey there, thanks. Also, I love your picture. Really good
Oh,
one.
thank you.
So you said you gave like a hint of something that Comandantes will look different. And I'm just trying to get a little concept of like, or some more details. And I'm wondering, first, will the new model allow a similar amount of daily Spanish? And secondly, would the new model allow folks to add outside of that kindergarten year or anything else that would allow for some balancing of the class sizes? Because one of the advantages of the new school is that then we'd have 5 classrooms per grade where you could be balancing class sizes out a little bit, but it's hard to do with the Comandantes sort of program if you can't add students at different years and that type of thing. So those are just some things I'm wondering about. I will say that in light of being probably like one of the world's biggest fans of Comandantes, but just as we got down to numbers, I noticed that feature.
So we are looking at different entry points. So right now, what we do is if a student wants to enter Caminantes past kindergarten, they have to be tested. They take an exam, and then it goes through an enrollment committee, and they decide if the student can enter. That's what happens right now. And it's kind of hard for students to join unless they are native Spanish speakers and they do pass that exam. We do want to grow the program and give students the opportunity to enter at different entry points. And so when we're looking at the model for 6, 7, 8, we are looking at different entry points where students, when they join the region, they can also take an exam to be able to join the program. Because once it reaches the middle school, it's not necessarily Caminantes, but we're providing language opportunities for those students to grow. And we want to be able to give those opportunities to other students as well, not only students that were originally in the Caminantes program. And then the question about what it's going to look like. So in order to have a dual language program, the minutes is what's important. It doesn't necessarily state what content we have to teach, so we can decide. As long as we have 50%, Spanish language, SLA would be important because that's grammar, speaking, writing, and all of that. But we can choose the content which we want to teach. And so it might be social studies, it might be science. That's something that we're still planning. But as long as we have the minutes 50-50, that keeps the integrity of the program. And then we can decide what's best for our Caminantes students.
All right, super. Thanks for the details.
Thank you, Celia, and thank you to everyone who participated in that agenda and that update. I'm going to move us on to our next agenda item, which is discussion of school start time change. So you're going to be introduced to this topic. We're not going to be voting on anything tonight. This is just an initial look at the proposal. Who would like to start? Dr. Z?
I'm taking this on as
Alrighty.
a team. I've jumped in a lot on it. And I want to say thank you to my team. It really is helpful to have all of us come forward and talk about the work that we're doing in the district. I attached a document. Hopefully everyone got a chance to review it and read it. But really, as we're planning for the K-6 restructuring, and we're looking at the operational layout, one of the key things, and I know at the region there was a talk of the high school, but one of the key things that really prompted us to have a discussion was with our new elementary school being open for the first about 6 months, the building will have a singular point of ingress and egress for all traffic. School buses, parent drop-off. I know many of you school committee members did the tour last week of the new school, and so that construction entrance is going to be our entrance and exit for 6 months, up to 6 months. We are looking at what those constraints would be in terms of the significance to operational challenges. I think Joanne and spoke about the fact that her and Allison was able to visit another UNESCO site in Lexington. They were able to share with the team kind of how their, because they have a singular point of entry and exit as well, the impact of that. Our concerns are schools start in high traffic hours. We've spoken to individuals at the town, so we're going to coordinate with DPW to review the traffic analysis that was conducted to identify what peak traffic hours are. We've developed a survey for elementary parents that we plan to send out. And we are looking at the different scenarios in terms of the single entrance and exit. The concern is the possible impact to all schools, and the larger school will have more buses because it's a combination of two schools, and what that impact would be to our other schools as well, like the schools that the buses still have to serve. So we wanted to start the conversation, have it come forward and the public, let them understand that this is not just where the district is like, hey, we just want to change the elementary start time. This actually is because of us looking at the operational impact of what it's going to be like in the first 6 months of opening the school. And so that's where our conversation sparked from.
Thank you, Dr. Z. Okay, I'm gonna do one round, and I'm gonna ask us to try. It's 7:47. I'm gonna ask us to try to wrap this up by 8, because again, this is just our first look, and
Yes.
we will have other chances. So I'm gonna start with Sarah.
Thank you. So 2 questions. Is this traffic problem particularly acute while the old building is being demolished? Is that part of the reason for the 1 point of egress? I mean, why is it just like a 6-month problem?
Yeah, I believe it is, from what I was informed from the team. And so Mike is here. He can help me join in on that part.
Yeah, it is. That exit won't be available until the old school has been demolished completely. So.
Okay, thank you.
And before that, once that's done, then we'll have 1 point where, vans and parents will drop off, and then the other exit will be for school buses.
Okay, thanks. So, is this a proposal to change times for 1 year only? Or how does this mesh with the proposal to change or possibly change times for the high school and middle school? I mean, I don't see that here. You wouldn't even know from reading this that was on the table. So obviously they have to work together.
So that's the joys of having one superintendent for multiple districts. And I guess when I come forward to the Amherst Elementary District, I'm not bringing the regional problems to the Amherst Elementary District. So, but I get to see the operational impacts from the elementary side. And so we've already had back-end conversations around if the elementary needed to start or the region needed to start at this time, what would that be? We are going to look at our routes to determine what that is going to be. But on the back end of it, not saying this specific meeting, but on the back end, there have been already had conversations around what would the impact be, what would those start times need to look like, what would the adjustments need to be.
Okay, but I think there was so at the regional meeting, there was a proposed start time, and I would think that is going to drive, assuming that goes forward, just assuming, then that would limit the options for the elementary start time. No?
So one of the things that we are going to gauge and I want to acknowledge that the elementary start times were just changed in 2021, 2022. This happened around the COVID time and just implemented. So I want to acknowledge that this is a time where this has already been it was already changed recently within the past 5 years. So that's something I want to bring forward to the community that I'm very aware of, and this is why we're sensitive about this, and that's why it's operational impact. The discussion right now is if the time, so the high school has a proposed time, but again, that time can shift because we also need to make sure that we're looking at what the needs are. And there are, again, various scenarios that we are running, but we didn't want to be running scenarios without starting the conversation community-wise around, hey, there may be an impact to the start time because of what we're seeing in terms of opening the school, implementing the school. So yes, Sarah, this is a capture information from the community. I believe in the elementary survey, we're looking at putting in possible times and saying, what are your thoughts about these to garner community feedback?
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call on myself next. I think this is a potentially big deal and a big change, and I want to urge the district to get lots of community input, lots of community engagement, multiple ways to get the message out that this is being considered. Parent Square, social media, meetings, emails, school committee meetings. Like, I think this is a big deal. To your point, Dr. Z, we did just make this change in recent memory. And to have elementary school start significantly later than it currently starts is going to impact parent work schedules, and I think it's going to be a really big deal. So I'm glad that we're talking about it now at this first meeting. But I would urge you to really get a lot of community input and allow people to input in various ways. Dr. Z, go ahead.
And I agree. That's why, stakeholder input is there. I think that we have to ensure that we take all things into account, and again, being a superintendent of multiple districts, not just on this side, but also on the secondary side, so that whatever we do, we're clear. And so that's why starting a conversation around the why, and that's what this is about. Like, why is this even coming forward? This is the importance of starting with the why and communicating that. So thank you for that, and we do plan to do that.
Thank you. Deb, do you have any questions?
Do you have any idea what the time would be?
We're looking at different times. Like, there's a possibility of maybe starting around 9 or a little later, or even starting earlier. Or what would the impact be? So that's why we want to walk through the steps and the surveys. We haven't solidified a set time at this moment.
Thank you.
That's it. Bridget, do you have any questions?
I don't think I have any questions at this point, no.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our next next agenda item is the first look at the fiscal 27 budget. So again, this is just our first look. We're not making any decisions tonight, but we do have decisions that do need to be made on other agenda items tonight. So I know this is an important topic, so I'm going to let Shannon take it away.
Okay. So for the FY27 budget, this is our first very, very preliminary draft. On some of the pages you'll see in big red letters, draft. So just keep that in mind as we run through this. I did include some enrollment information that I'm going to walk through that I've been doing at all 3 districts, just to give an understanding, because I know there's been a lot of discussion around school choice and things of that sort. I'll talk about the operating budget, the capital budget, and a little bit about our revolving funds, and then I'll take any questions at the end. So I popped in the chart here for our current enrollment that I pulled from our data dashboard. For Crocker Farm, Fort River, Wildwood, the dark color is the current enrollment, and the lighter color is the prior year's enrollment. And then because we've had so much discussion about school choice across the districts, I wanted to give you an idea of where this students are going when they leave the district. This chart is hard to look at, so I do have the actual data down below of those numbers in the chart. So on average, 44% of our students are choicing out and going to Pelham, and the next highest one is Hadley. 26% of our students go to Hadley. So those are the 2 main areas where students go. Students that choice into the district come from many schools as well, and like I said before, there's the actual raw data here for people that want to look at it that way. So on average, 28% of our students are coming from Belchertown, 13% are coming from South Hadley, and 10% from Hadley, just to give us an idea of where we're attracting students from. And then this is a chart that shows our school choice revenue that comes in the blue, and then our actual spending every year in the orange. So then I'm going to quickly move to our operating budget for FY27. So our staffing decisions are still evolving and being refined. Sixth grade decisions, as you know, those are still in a little bit up in the air, but I hope we have a plan solidified tonight. And then decisions around students of if they stay at their established school or if they go to the new school that they're zoned for. So that has an impact of how we look at this budget right now. We also are expecting an 18% increase in health insurance at this point. Health insurance we don't have a specific percentage from them yet. However, this is what Amherst is projecting, the town of Amherst, so we are aligning with them until we get further information, which will either be sometime in January or February. We have $750,000 of school choice applied to our salary line, so it effectively reduces those lines within the budget. $246,000 from circuit breaker that's applied to the expenses within special ed, not salary lines. $185,000 of UMass support, which is applied to the salary, and then $125,000 of Amherst College, which we are also supporting salaries with. We're currently in year 2, or going to move into year 2 of our transportation contract, so we have made the projections for that for what we know at this time. And then the 1% that the town of Amherst stated is not, was a gift per se and not going to be included in our base. We've removed that on the next page that you'll see. So on here, our salaries, we're showing a 7.7% increase. There's some things that we have to take into consideration. Like I said, this is very preliminary. We don't have the split FTE with the middle school, if the 6th graders go to the middle school, accounted for here. That's one thing that we need to review. We don't know yet of the students and families that may decide to stay at their established school or zone for their new school. That's a swing of about 70 students. And without knowing exactly where they're going yet, it's hard to have our staffing plan completely wrapped up with a bow because it's a big swing of students, and to know how many staff members you need within each building. So that's still in the works, and with conversations with Dr. Z, communication for that is going out to families in the beginning of February, with the hope that we will have that information finalized at the end of January. Did I say January before? The beginning of January. So that's a piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of pieces of this puzzle, and it still needs more heavy refinement than what we have presented here tonight. So there's unknowns. In terms of contracts, there is some increase, small percentage increase in here, which is around our translation line and increase in maintenance staff and transportation. They actually are listed under the contract section here. Our substitutes, we have an increase because, as you can see, over the prior years, our actuals are much higher, so we did do a 3-year average to determine those amounts. For regular education, there were some expenses that we combined with the buildings combining that we reduced a little bit. We did have an increase to a Commonantes line for some proficiency testing that's required that was previously on a grant, but overall it was a net decrease in that bucket. Special education, I reviewed with SSO to determine what the projections are going to be for out-of-district placements and transportation. One thing to note is that transportation, in comparison to the actual cost for student services, it's almost the same amount as programs. So it's just really out of control in terms of transportation. So based on those projections, we've updated accordingly, and we have also applied IDEA and circuit breaker to this area. Other programs, there's no increase here. The $4,100 that sits in this line is for our to participate with the collaborative for collective collective purchasing, like our food service items were part of that bigger procurement where we can get things cheaper. So that's just going to stay the same at this point. For student services, we did increase the homeless and foster care lines to kind of align with what our actuals are, so that's that 10,000 increase there. For support services, we have some adjustments because we're combining schools. We refined, what those budgets should be, and so you see a small decrease. For program development, we have some reductions just to match what our actuals have been over the past few years. And we did start to add some curriculum supplies for 6th grade, but reduced K to 5 curriculum supplies and separating it out by school because those expenses are separated per school. And we know that they'll be in a different school, just not sure where. So there was some refinement starting there already. For our school administration, slight decrease, and that also is just refining basically what I said in the program and staff development, refining some of our actuals and separating out for the 6th grade academy.
Excuse me, Shannon. Sorry, we need a 10-second break. Hang on. We were doing so well. We were doing so well.
We are.
Okay, Shannon, go ahead.
In central administration, there's an increase. We did do a 3-year average on legal fees. So legal fees hit underneath the school committee line and also in the HR line, and that aligns with our end-of-year DESI reporting. So those get parsed out based on what the bill is for. And like I said, a 3-year average. We did decrease in the HR line for advertising notices, but we also did have an increase for some of our HR software that we've implemented. And within the business office, there's an increase for our accounting software, which is Munis, because that bill does increase over time. So we've made adjustment for that. Within the IT, we have decreased the PD line for additional trainings and adjusted some of the contracted services within the IT. So that was a net decrease. Facilities, this may change, but we're at the moment we have moved the HVAC and plumber position out of the payroll lines and put it within facilities under contracted services because we end up contracting for them because we're unable to fill those positions and our rates right now are not competitive. So we're going to look at that in the upcoming negotiations, but for now, but may change, it's within, I moved it down to this line. The utilities. So utilities is interesting. I had reached out to Danisco to find out if there was a study for what our anticipated expenses might be. Because I didn't think putting 0 on all of those lines really made sense. We should seek clarification. I also reached out to my listserv to find out other schools that have net 0 and what their utilities look like. And I didn't receive any responses. And I reached out directly to schools that I Googled that do have a building like this. And also did not receive responses. However, Danisco did provide me a document that said the estimated cost for utilities is $97,000, but that $97,000 does not account for any savings from using the electric produced by the solar and any credits for the electricity being sold back for the power that that's generated that the school didn't necessarily use. So that $97,000 without knowing how much we might get back in credits, plus we do have to account for cost for fuel for the generator. I have reduced the lines within Wildwood and Fort River for utilities, but I have left approximately 40,000 within those lines until we see how much we get back in credit. So I do think we need a year, and I think we need a little cushion until we know what it's going to be. But right now I have those utilities at about 40,000, which we do see significant savings in here. It's $218,000 that's listed. So we'll keep an eye on that, and if there's any new information that I receive, I will certainly keep you posted about that. Transportation, we're in year 2. We've updated our projections. This is subject to change depending on what our routes look like. Students with that choose which school they go to, and if there's any changes with the 6th grade, this might be adjusted. But for right now, we have a $63,000 increase here. One other thing is we also wanted to leave a cushion with utilities if we keep Wildwood for the summer, for summer programming. There needed to be something to support those costs there. Then we move on to risks and benefits, and like I said before, we're projecting an 18% increase in health insurance and an increase for our liability and property insurance. And so that's $1 million increase with this health insurance. It is astronomical, and that is really, like, if we didn't, like, even a 2.5% increase doesn't cover the insurance increase alone. So that's just something I really want to highlight and really soak in because it's so massive and devastating. Our control accounts, there's a slight increase here. At the end, or when we developed the 26 budget and we were really strapped, we did remove some of our contingency we normally carry a contingency for a teacher and 2 paras. So we reduced some of that, and then we started the year, and lo and behold, we needed that contingency. So I really put it back to where we usually hold it because it's just quite obvious we need it. So with that, a 3.5% increase according to the town of Amherst guidance, which ultimately is only a 2.5% increase because they took back 1% that's not being in the base, is a $2 million reduction required. At this point, though, there's still a lot of work to be done within our salary section that it just wasn't going to happen for tonight, that we need to do more refinement. So then moving on to our capital, I want to say for FY27, Dr. Z and I, we have spoken a lot about what is happening with the new school and what are we going to do for Crocker Farm, because we are not going to have students come in to the new school and then feel like Crocker Farm was left out. So our goal for 27, and Mike is putting together a facilities plan for the summer of 27 at Crocker Farm to really do work that needs to be done there. So there's not a lot on this list at the moment, and part of that is because we have funding for projects specifically at Crocker Farm already that we haven't been able to do because summer programming does happen at Crocker Farm, and when the students are in the building, the work that would need to be done when students aren't there can't happen. So it's really crucial that we close down, a portion of Crocker Farm to be able to do some of this work, and we don't want to ask for things that we're not going to be able to do right now. So we have some funding for prior projects, and we're putting together that plan, but then there are projects that we want to be able to do this summer. So one of those is the playground. So we have funding for a playground design. So there's 2 playgrounds, 2 big playgrounds and 1 for the preschool, and also an asphalt playground. So for this 175, there's some upgrades that we want to get done this summer before the students return because there's some safety concerns, and the zip line structure is a safety hazard and it needs to be removed. The retaining wall needs to be rebuilt. There's rotting timbers, and that has to be removed from the play area. And there's 2 damaged sides that need to be replaced. So we want to use some of that funding to do that this summer. So if it's approved by July 1, we'll be able to do so. In addition, there's a storage shed for the preschool that's rotting. It needs to be taken down and replaced. And the asphalt playground, so where the basketball courts are, needs to be repaved. So we really would like to do those upgrades immediately in preparation for opening up of FY '27. We have 70,000 here for IT equipment, and that is if the 6th grade does go to the middle school, we want to align them with the ARMS model of the students are 1-to-1, so 1 Chromebook per kid, and they have access to that. So IT would like to utilize those funds in that way.
Sorry, Shannon, 10-second break. Okay, go ahead. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay. And then we also have a request for an SE van and a maintenance van, or maintenance vehicle on here as well. Lastly, on the slide, these requests, so it works a little different for the Amherst School District. We have to submit those to the town by December 22nd. So we are prepared to do that, but I have not submitted them until after this presentation. Then on the next page, the question is as well, what else do we need in the future? And to give kind of stakeholders, the town of Amherst, you all an idea of what's coming down the road. This might be hard to see on my screen right now, but at some point, we will have to replace the Crocker Farm roof. There's some electrical upgrades and HVAC replacement. If we already have the money for one of the playgrounds design, so we're hoping to do that this year, and then potentially ask for that money the following year to update that. We did not put anything yet for the new elementary school, but I will say, although the school is new, what I heard from Allison and Joanne when they attended that other school, was that while it's brand new, there were things that were faulty or something comes up. So we'll have to. I wouldn't say there's going to be nothing in the future, but at some point we'll update this for what potentially might come up for the new school. And then down below we have some district needs, which are shared between the schools and not specific to the location, but can be used without or throughout the Amherst district. Our revolving funds, there's a lot of questions around our revolving funds. Our food service revolving, we are reimbursed for our meals that we serve, and that reimbursement covers the full operations of food services, so it's not on our operating budget at all. We do have a special education tuition revolving fund, so occasionally we do accept tuition in students, and if there's a need one year that we didn't anticipate and we don't have the ability in our operating budget to support that, then we may use the special ed tuition revolving fund. This fund really isn't good for for a reoccurring year-over-year expense, because there could be a year or two where we take in none, and there have been years like that we don't take in any tuition at all. The preschool revolving fund does take in money year over year, so we do have, I believe, a para salary on there right now. So the students that are in preschool that have special education services do not pay, but students or families that want to send their child to preschool, they do pay based on that sliding scale. School choice we receive year over year, and just an important note here, it's $5,000 per student. But then if you look at our school choice numbers and it says, 60 students, 60 times 5, that doesn't actually match the revenue we take in, because it doesn't account for students that received special education services that we had to pay for services, and that school district who sent them to our district actually pays us. Well, it goes to DESE, and then DESE reimburses us. So that's why that is off, and it won't ever be a straight math. It's because of those special education costs. Circuit breaker, we receive every year, and we know the exact amount to budget the way that we have it set up. We claim, or we start to spend the money on the child the one year, we receive the money the following year, and then we budget that exact amount for the next fiscal year. So it's set up really great, so we always know how much to budget, and it's not a guess. We do have a special education stabilization fund. I wanted to bring this up because I know there was talk at the town council meeting of if we did need to utilize this fund, perhaps they would replenish it with free cash, which is a great idea. So we have $242,000 within this fund now. We would use this fund not to support our operating budget year over year, but kind of like a rainy day situation where, oh my goodness, we have a high influx of intensive needs or residential placement, something that's like a one-time cost for this year where we'll have to budget it for the following year, but we need to pay for this right now that we didn't expect. In that case, we would need to go back to the school committee and ask to utilize the funds and take a formal vote, and also the town council would need to vote on that as well. So then with that, I will take some questions.
All right, we're going to do one round of questions again, and I'm going to start with Bridget, if that's okay. Go ahead, Bridget.
Sure. So you caught me by surprise, Jen. I know I have questions. Hang on one sec. Yeah, I think my first question goes to the capital discussion, and I see that you've got in fiscal year 28 all that HVAC and electrical at Crocker Farm, and I think my question is basically like, why are we putting it out there, and does putting it out there impact in any way both the green funds that the state has available, but also does it impact at all the cost savings? Because look at that 200,000 that you showed above, that by doing greener and more energy efficient things we're saving. So that's my first question.
So we did have some funds for HVAC replacement already that we're going to utilize first this year. The 450 for the out year, we could apply for the grant. I know somebody forwarded that along to me, and we're going to look into it. But I do know it's not necessarily guaranteed. But we wanted to be realistic of what we're going to be able to accomplish for 27 with the major changes happening right now. And so we didn't want to put something on and not be able to get it done. We really want to catch up on old projects and our new asks now before we take on too much, and then we're questions, why didn't we do it?
Yeah, sure. No, understood. And I guess I'm just thinking that $2 million, and I don't think this is a question as much as just that's a really huge number. And within that really large number, one thing that I noticed in the budget lines, that in many places you've already cut and you're going negative in them. So I think I just wanted to highlight that we're looking at 2 million.
Sorry, Bridget. 10-second break. Okay, Bridget.
No, it's just a comment that that's a very large number, even after many of those budget lines being looked at carefully, it looks like on Shannon's end, and making reductions. So,
thank you. Deb, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thanks for this, Shannon. One of the questions, I don't usually pay a lot of attention to capital because Bridget's got that, but one of the questions that I had looking at capital is, I'm assuming the town has seen this because there's a bunch of years between the region and Amherst School Committee that we are requesting a lot. There's a lot of zeros in there. I think it's, between the two, it's 27, 28, 29, and 30. Has the town seen it?
No, so this is the preliminary draft of what the potential out years may look. It can change.
Okay.
But so there was prior this document I inherited, and then we met with our new team because we're all different people to really try to refine this and make our best estimates. And so I think if the town has seen it, this is probably their first time seeing it now, or on board docs. So we've had capital meetings between facilities, and Sarah Marshall has been there, and Bridget was able to attend one. And so that has been happening. And then I've also met with Derek and Elizabeth to talk about some of their needs in creating this document. You'll notice attached to board docs, which I didn't say, is that there's a draft capital plan that kind of also highlights some of the things that facilities has done and some of their great work of what projects have been completed, what projects have already been approved, and kind of what the status is, and then our 27 requests. And that's a new document for this year. Amherst didn't have that before, but I thought that was also a helpful tool since we do sometimes get a lot of questions around capital.
I have more. At the top in this pretty pink, it says MSBA application FY28 ? So would any of those costs that we see in these columns be, if we were successful in getting an MSBA grant, would they be part of that project?
Potentially, yes. So I put that up there because I believe, as part of to be able to apply for the MSBA, the like you need to show that this is supported and voted. So if you recall, the middle school roof, the original debt authorization was back in 2018 or 2019, and we needed to show proof that that was voted as part of our application. So I'm thinking that in 28 is when we would do that, so then we can start beginning to apply for the roof repair at Crocker Farm.
Okay, because I believe the chair of the finance committee expressed an interest in helping with that. So we have access to that. Some questions are really small. The electricity credits that we get from the solar, those go to the school or the town?
I believe it goes to the school. We have our own meters.
Okay. Can we double check?
Yes.
Thank you. It would be helpful to see some of this broken down the same way we see it in the general fund lines in the budget book. But, it's always easy to ask for those kinds of things, not knowing what that involves on your end. So, the payroll line and there's just more refinement, there's more lines. It would be nice to be able to correlate what we're seeing here with what we saw in the general fund budget in the budget books. So how labor intensive would that be?
It is pretty labor intensive, and one of the things I need to do is I need to know the name of the school so I can restructure our accounting, and I need to do a whole revision on that budget book, but I haven't started it yet because I want to know the name of the school because that affects what letters we use within the accounting system. So it takes, actually that naming trickles down to a lot of things that come out of it. So it's not, I will not be able to have that ready quickly.
Okay.
By any means.
school choice is something that we will be voting on relatively soon, I think. And that's always an interesting issue because I don't think when I voted on it, I've ever made much of an informed vote besides the fact that it generates revenue, and when we approve it, that allows the building principals to make an informed decision about whether or not to open up spots. But I've gone back and looked at some of our enrollments, and I'm not sure that the long-term opening up of a seat makes sense. We wind up we wind up currently in smaller schools or in smaller sets of classrooms looking at, do we keep 2 large classes or do we break it up into 3 small classes? So is there a way of making a more informed decision about the long-term effects about staffing as it relates to accepting students into our schools?
So one of the things, and specifically school choice, it's a deeper discussion. We've had various discussions about the fiscal impact of students that we accept, and we're not quite clear on their needs. As you know, it's a lottery. And then looking at our overarching meeting the needs of students and keeping our class sizes manageable. So we've already began that discussion. And deeper in terms of, once there are students, right. And so as a public school system, when individuals register into our system because they're within our district, we can't turn them away, but when we open up to school choice, they remain with us. So we will be having those critical discussions, especially when we think about the upcoming school year and programming.
Okay, do you happen to know when we vote on that? Because I feel like it's soon. Maybe
No.
Is it the spring?
Yeah, there will be a school choice hearing, and we only have to vote to leave.
Okay, all right, and that's, how much more numbers do we have? Oh.
I don't have my agenda with me. I think it's like either February or March. Somewhere, it's very earlier it's not later in the year, but it's earlier. I'll have to check the annual agenda.
Last question, Deb?
A comment and a question. I really like the chart that shows the different towns and it's a school choice. I know you said it's complicated, but I love it. So don't give it up for choice and how many. But then my last question is, you said a certain amount of school choice money has been applied. Are you expecting to be able to apply more, or we don't know yet? It's too early to tell.
It's a good question. So Tracy Novak would say you don't want to heavily rely on school choice in our budget. We have consistently been using it year over year. So right now, I don't want to increase it, but we'll see as things progress and also take a look at what 26 numbers are looking like.
Thank you.
Dr. C, I'm going to go to Sarah next, but is there something you wanted to respond to?
I wanted to clarify. I checked the annual agenda. It is February. I was correct. So February that the school choice hearing is.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yeah, a few things. This is an eye-popping deficit, very, very distressing. And we're going to be having some really hard discussions in the next couple months. Something small that I only mention in case we're going to see all these pie charts for the choice in and choice out again is that the choice out percentages in the pie chart didn't match the raw data. So you could check that perhaps.
It was an average between those years, not just for one specific year. So that might be why.
Oh, okay. But it seemed to work for the choice in. So I was confused, but minor. Regarding capital, I hope that the document, and I just can't remember, will mention that some capital needs are eligible for Community Preservation Act funding. and that we should get in the habit of tuning into that cycle, which happens right away in the fall now, like during September is when applications are due. And we should remember to seek those funds because otherwise everything else may or may not be funded by the town in its town-wide capital plan. Let's see. I hope that you and I hope the team can make a presentation similar to what we were discussing in the regional budget and audit subcommittee meeting about distinguishing, helping us and the public distinguish among what expenses are required by law and what is discretionary. And some of those distinctions will be, judgment calls, but a lot are not. And it will be just, I think, helpful to see and to explain why the budget is what it is and why cutting can be so hard, especially if the discretion is all in some of the programs and not in other kinds of expenses. That's it for now.
Thank you. And thank you, Shannon, for the presentation. We really appreciate it. We're going to move us on to our next agenda item, which will hopefully be quick. The first read of the 26-27 academic calendar. This is on the agenda because the Amherst School Committee had adjourned when we looked at this as a group at the joint committee meeting last week. Members have already seen it, but it hasn't been shown at an Amherst School Committee meeting. So, Dr. Z, I'm going to ask for like a quick 60-second overview of the calendar so that we can get on to our two very meaty agenda items that are still remaining.
Sure thing. 60 seconds.
Yep.
The calendar this year takes into account high impact days where we had to negotiate and it had a budgetary impact this year. We know what our budgets are facing next year, so we put those days back in as per our contractual agreements with 2 union bodies. And we've also have some grade out days. Those days kind of revolve around possible days for the move, for unpacking and impact to calendar. But overarchingly, it's a great calendar, I think. The team worked very hard on developing it.
Thank you. I think that was even shorter than 60 seconds.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Sorry,
go ahead, Sarah.
Very quick. I believe the APEA has to review it or somehow weigh in
We
on
did.
it. Has that happened? Yeah.
So we did send this out to APA before we posted it, like when we first developed. I did a question in the union today to ask if they received feedback. They have not received feedback yet from their members. So that's where we're at this time. If we as a team will probably come together, pull the committee back together to see what their thoughts are about us possibly sending out another survey. But we have not received any feedback because they have not received feedback.
As I recall, there was some circumstance, like if the first day of school was before such and such, then they had to, I don't know, had to be consulted or maybe vote or something?
First day of school is before September 1st. They had to provide input in the calendar.
Okay.
And so that's why we sent it back to them. And again, we have not received any feedback.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. Yes, Deb?
Two quick questions, not even questions, just comments. As with last year, if you could just, when we print it out, make sure that there's a black and white copy, a version that is understandable if you print it out, not in color, because that was really helpful to me personally. And we get occasionally questions about what no school for budgetary reasons is. We didn't do it last year, but maybe some sort of statement about what that really means, because it's code for otherwise we would have to pay too much in substitutes. But if you could, if there's space to put it in there, I think that might help people. That's it.
Thank you for that.
That's all I got. Thank
All right.
you.
I just forgot something.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Sarah.
very quick. Just as a reminder, and the public may be noticing that the earliest possible release last day of school and the latest last day of school are not yet noted here. right?
They are known, but not, just they didn't
Noted.
they
Yeah,
didn't
they're-
indicate them on this calendar. I believe June 16th is the
Yes.
earliest
Yes.
for last day of school.
So it is possible that the last day of school, depending on snow days, could be after Juneteenth,
Yes,
which we were trying to avoid, but it's going to happen maybe, so.
maybe.
Yeah.
We did edit the calendar based on the last meeting, and so we will have it prepared for the final vote in January. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're going to recess until 8:41. There's a couple statements I want to make before we start the discussion about the naming of the new school. I just want to share some information. So, oh, sorry, I just wanted to confirm, Bridget, are you back? Okay, well, we have a quorum, and it's late, so we're going to push forward. A couple statements, okay, before we get into the discussion about the name. So first, there were some questions that emerged in the online input forum about why do we even need a name for the sixth graders? And so, just to repeat for members of the public, the Amherst sixth graders, the plan is for them to attend school in the middle school building, but they will not be enrolled at Amherst Regional Middle School. They will still be Amherst Elementary School students, but because they will not be attending, the plan is for them not to attend school at Crocker Farm or the new school. They need a school name so that they can be tracked by DESE. So we need a name for the school within a school where the sixth graders are planned to attend. Secondly, the decision on what to name the new K through 5 school building and the sixth grade school building is a school committee decision. We take input from students, from the school community, and from the general public, but it's a school committee decision, not a community vote. Next, we have confirmed that there's no prohibition on using the word academy. This was confirmed by DESE. Thirdly, I spoke to Cheryl Honey-Holly, who is the Sansqua, or chief, of the Hasanamisko Nipmuc Band. This is a group that is a free and self-governing tribal entity. I was referred to her by two different people when I asked about connecting with the local Native community. She expressed that using the name Nonotuck, if we decide to do that, would be appropriate because it's not the name of a living people. She urged us not to name it after a living people, and Nonotuck is, according to her, not the name of a living people. She urged us to, if we choose this name, to steer away from any mascot or imagery, and she encouraged us to teach students in all grades about the original Nonotuck people and why the name was chosen for the school, which unfortunately right now is not part of the state curriculum. I also spoke with Jane Wald, the executive director of the Emily Dickinson Museum, about whether there were any concerns or considerations about naming a school after Emily Dickinson, and she said she did not see any reason for concern, and she thinks it makes sense to name a school after Emily Dickinson. So those are just some things I wanted to share. I'm going to see if I can screen. Oh, you've got it up. Excellent. This is the, thank you, whoever is sharing this. This is the, thank you, Seth. This is the results of the online input survey that was sent out on the 5 finalist names. So first, actually, I'm going to see if I can pull it up myself. First, the survey, we had 466 responses to the survey. So thank you to Seth and the central office for sending out this, and Jerry as well for sending out the online input survey form. And this first chart is just who answered the form. So it was about 40% parents and caregivers, and then there were other people as well. People could choose more than one item, so these are not going to add to 100. But we had community members, elementary staff, parents of past students, current students themselves, parents of future students, and then secondary staff as well. So for the 5 finalists that we had put forth for the elementary school, 31% of respondents chose Wild River Elementary School as their top choice, followed closely by Amethyst Brook Elementary School with 28%. And then the other 3, Riverwood, Emily Dickinson, and Nonotuck, received far fewer choices for those names. If we scroll down for the 6th grade school, 30% of respondents chose the name Chestnut Street Academy or School, which was by far the top choice, followed by Emily Dickinson at 20%, and then Amethyst Brook, Nonotuck, and 6th grade Odyssey. And then there were quite a few verbatim comments about the school, the choice of the school, and I have listed all of them in this 9-page document so that people can read at their leisure. Now I'd like to open it up for discussion.
Can I just ask, is Bridget back?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good.
I was here
Okay.
all along. I just couldn't get the unmute on
Okay,
time.
okay.
It
Just
happens.
wanted to know you were there.
Great.
So are you looking for our preferences?
Sure. Anyone can share whatever their thoughts are on the results of the survey and on the names for the schools.
All right, then may I?
Sarah.
Give mine? Okay. First of all, thank you for putting all that together. That's a lot of, I mean, it's great participation. It's good to see. So I will speak first to the K to 5 school. My preferences are either Amethyst Brook Elementary or Nonotuck Elementary. I do not like Wild River or Riverwood. First of all, there is no Wild River. I think that's just confusing.
Sorry.
And also, I understand that many families, many students will miss the Wildwood School and the Fort River School. But in 8 years, no one, I won't say no one will remember, but that sentiment will dissipate pretty quickly, in my opinion, at least compared to the lifetime of this school. So I don't think it will make sense to students 15 years from now that their school is called Wild River when there is no Wild River or Riverwood. I would also note that we closed Marks Meadow School, I don't know, like 12 years ago at this point. That didn't seem to come up as like, gosh, could we somehow evoke all three of our schools? It's just life moves on. Schools develop their own cultures. So I just don't, they seem synthetic and unnecessary and won't mean anything. But I really like Amethyst Brook. I think that's a beautiful name. There is, in fact, an Amethyst Brook very nearby. And Nonotuck I like because there are no names of Native peoples or even places that I can find in all of Amherst, not a road, not a building at any of our institutions of higher learning. There's nothing except for the Norwottuck Rail Trail. And that is erasure. And naming a school Nonotuck would at least recall that part of our past. So I'm in favor of those two names, Amethyst Brook and Nonotuck.
Thank you, Sarah. I will share that I think Amethyst Brook is my personal favorite name. I think it's a really pretty name, and it follows we seem to have a practice of naming schools after locations. We had one person, we received one email from someone who said maybe it might be hard to spell, but I actually don't think it's hard to spell. It kind of is spelled the way it sounds, and also if we choose it for the elementary school, it'll be on big letters on the side of a building, so it will hopefully children and adults will learn to spell it. At our last meeting, I expressed sentiments similar to Sarah about whether or not to choose a name that was a combination of Fort River and Wildwood, and I had the same thought that like this school is going to be in operation for 50 years, hopefully, and in 10 years or 6 years or 5 years, will anyone feel strongly about the fact that it was named after Fort River and Wildwood? I actually like Riverwood better than Wild River. I think I think it flows better. I like that it's one word, but it didn't get very many votes. All that being said, I have since possibly changed my tune a little bit, because when I think about the students who are in Wildwood and Fort River now, these are the students who, when many of them or most of them will presumably attend middle school and high school in Amherst, and when they're seniors in high school, they won't be able to go back and visit their elementary school the way seniors do now. In fact, I keep saying this, so I'm hoping someone will hear that, like, Fort River and Wildwood, this is the last year that seniors will be able to visit those, that students who attended those schools who are in Amherst will be able to visit those schools. So I wanted to encourage the high school to, Bridget, do you think you could mute? Thank you. I wanted to encourage the high school to send several cohorts of students to go back and visit Wildwood and Fort River. Hopefully there will be visiting days for everyone. Anyway, these students won't be able to go visit their elementary school when they graduate from high school, which I've heard is a highlight of senior year or a highlight of graduation season. So that makes me feel a little bit more like it's okay to honor them for this. It's a loss. I mean, it's a new building, and that's wonderful, but it's somewhat of a loss. So I feel like I would be okay with either Wild River or Amethyst Brook. I also really like Nonotuck, and I would be okay with that one as well, but given that it was the least voted on name. I like the idea of honoring our past, but I also want to be able to listen to our community. So those are my thoughts. Deb, would you like to go next?
Sure, I agree with everyone. I like Nonotuck, but yeah, and for the reason Sarah mentions that it is honoring something important to keep in mind. I like Amethyst because it follows that pattern. I like both of them because they don't translate differently in different languages. So that's always been in my mind. In Caminatis, there's all these, in the new building, there's all these bilingual signages. And so Wild River, I don't know how that would translate, but that would be a different word in other languages, whereas something with a name is just a name. So those are my thoughts. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other.
So sorry, Deb, did you say Nonotuck and Wild River?
I would prefer Nonotuck and Amethyst Brook. Okay. And I think it's okay to learn how to spell amethyst.
What? Nonotuck, okay. Bridget?
I still like the Amethyst Academy. I think, am I doing the thing?
No, you're good.
Okay, great.
But we're
I like Amethyst Academy just for the alliteration, and also sixth graders can learn to spell hard words. And I think I agree with sort of the general sentiment here that one of the combo names or Nonotuck, that those are good choices. So, but the combo names, I think, does get to that sense of loss, but also that sense of community when you say, oh, I think in 10 years people won't remember or won't feel that way. People will live in this town until they're, 95, who went to Fort River or Wildwood. And so I think combining the names actually, I don't think that's something that would go out of fashion, let's say.
Can I just
Sarah,
ask?
go ahead.
Bridget, you mentioned Amethyst Academy. I thought we were, at this point, just discussing the elementary school names. So are you
Yeah,
also?
true. But if we, since there seems to be such a consensus towards that is one of our choices, if we move it over to there,
I see.
then we narrow our field a little, I guess. That's where my mind was going.
Okay, I'll just say I thought you were mentioning that because you were saying you want to reserve that name for the sixth grade school, and that's why you didn't want to use it for elementary. I also wanted to say, you said Amethyst Academy as a nice alliteration, but the finalist name is Amethyst Brook Academy. Does that change your opinion about the alliteration?
I don't like Amethyst Brook Academy. Yeah, I think that's like one word too far. But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's fair.
All right. So okay, so hang on. What I think I heard was, Sarah, if you had a top two, in no particular order, it would be Amethyst Brook and Nonotuck. Deb, Amethyst Brook and Nonotuck. I said Amethyst Brook or Wild River. And Bridget saying Nonotuck or Wild River? If you had to pick a top two.
I mean, when you put the votes that way, I think maybe then the vote should just be like, I like the Amethyst Brook name as well.
Okay.
If we're going to just stick with the elementary in the first discussion.
All right. I may be breaking with practice a little bit, but I wanted to invite any staff who are on the call who would like to give your opinion or perspective. You're welcome to do so. You can raise your hand if you'd like to, but you're no pressure. Okay, Michael Gallo O'Connell, go ahead.
I like the Amethyst Brook name for the elementary. That's my preference.
Great.
Or Nonotuck second as well. So.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Seth behind you.
Great. Did I see Marta? I haven't got my glasses on.
Yes.
Yes, Marta, go ahead.
Yes, from the very beginning, I had the vision and the notion of the Amethyst Brook. I simply adore that. I love the purple color associated with it, and I love the association with, the natural beauty that surrounds the area.
Thank you, Marta. I'm going to call on Seth next. Do you want to hear?
From a marketing perspective, and in 2025, unfortunately, we do have to market our public schools. I think Amethyst Brook is a much nicer name, much easier to market. Wild River also would be a very easy to market school, and in my free time, I may or may not have developed a logo for Wild River, because in the office we were calling it Wild River while prepping all of these things. But Amethyst Brook is also a very nice name, and I would recommend Amethyst Brook Elementary School versus Amethyst Brook Academy, only because then you get ABA, which is a lot of other acronyms already.
Thank you, Seth. I see Tanya next.
Hi, my only concern with Wild River would be we have students coming from Crocker that could possibly be attending and leaving them out of the equation with the name. Thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. That's a very good point. And then Megan?
Yeah, I agree partially with Tanya as well about the Crocker Farm thing. My other thought with Wild River is I really like to see this school as kind of a new beginning for our students. And if we're pulling those names over, we're not kind of pushing forward that idea of a new beginning and growth. And I really like the idea of a new name. I particularly like Amethyst Brook as well, because I think it's really important to connect our students with their natural surroundings.
Thank you, Megan. Stephanie?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I think that given the environmentally conscious school that has been designed for our students and our educators, the emphasis that we're going to have on the green spaces outside the school, the gardening, the outdoor planning that's going to go on there, the outdoor learning potential, I think associating the name with something from the environment like Amethyst Brook makes tremendous sense. So I concur about that one.
Thank you, Stephanie. Dr. Z?
I think the team has said it best, and I want to ditto and echo everything that they've said. Most importantly, the fact that it is and what you said, Jennifer, in terms of engaging community voice, and tying it to the pattern that Amherst already has in the culture of naming of schools and looking at relevant locations that, as we teach our students about Crocker Farm or Fort River or even Wildwood, they are able to associate it to various places, and we can actually put like a historical context to it. So it helps to build that pride, that understanding, and that purpose within the school that they attend. I also would like to honor the memories of the schools that were already established. And, in our new school building, we'll be creating a whole new school culture. I don't want to lose the culture and the memories that everyone have established of Fort River or Wildwood. When you hear individuals talk about their experiences at Marks Meadow, they speak with many individuals who I've heard speak with a sense of pride or talk about their principal and who their teacher was. I don't want us to lose that, even if we have individuals years from now who've attended that, like creating that opportunity for them to have a memory that's solid and then build a new one in this transition.
All right. It's Megan. I think Megan, your hand is still raised, but you already spoke, right?
Yeah, sorry, I gotta figure out how to put it down on my phone.
May I make one more comment?
Sure, Sarah, go ahead.
Before, if we're launching into voting, because we have repeat, candidates for the sixth grade. Also, I just want to say that I prefer Amethyst Brook for the elementary school because it's very near the elementary school and it is not near the middle school building. So that's why I prefer it for the elementary school.
Thank you, Sarah. Deb?
So that actually, the closest river, I guess maybe is the difference. Closest river is Fort River. So that was giving me pause for a while. But that's all I
It's
got.
there. It's a tributary.
Yeah, okay.
All right, it sounds like we're congregating around Amethyst Brook.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to offer any
Oh.
objections before we move to a vote? Sarah, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would. I move that the new school be named the Amethyst Brook Elementary School.
And I will second.
Point of order?
Yes.
Amherst Brook School or Amherst Brook Elementary School?
Amethyst Brook Elementary School.
ABES, okay, because that's not what's on the chart. Is that an oversight?
It's what's on for the
Oh.
green.
Okay.
I believe it is what's on the chart. And it's what was in the survey.
It was in the survey,
Look at the-
okay.
Look at the green bars for the
Oh,
elementary
oh,
school.
yeah, okay, I'm in the wrong, there we go, thank you.
All right.
Wrong page.
Any discussion before we vote? Sarah?
Aye.
Deb?
Yes.
Jennifer's a yes, and Bridget?
Yes.
Thank you and congratulations. And now we can start calling it the Amethyst Brook Elementary School.
Yes.
All right, yay. Moving on to the sixth grade school. Would anyone like to start by sharing your thoughts? We should probably not name it the Amethyst Brook Academy or School. Anyone want to share your thoughts to start off? I will start by saying I was very pleased that Chestnut Street Academy or School rose to the top because that was a sort of a late addition to the names, and it was actually Sarah Marshall's idea to add that to the list because middle school is on Chestnut Street. I like it because when kids are in fifth grade or coming up through K through 5 and they're being prepared to go to sixth grade, their teachers can say, when you go to Chestnut Street, when you go to, as opposed to when you go to the middle school, because they're going to be attending school in the middle school but not enrolled in the middle school. So I like the idea. I think it's very sensible, and chestnut is a nice word, and I think it's very practical, and I was pleased that it was very popular. So that is my one preferred name. If I had to pick a second, I think I would pick Sixth Grade Odyssey, but that got the least votes. But Chestnut Street is my preferred. I'm just going to start calling on people. Bridget, what do you think?
Well, I think in this context, I like the Naugatuck idea. I think that it is the age where students start to really delve into history and sense of place and what it means to be part of some place. And then given that history and that also context of erasure that Sarah Marshall had mentioned, like I could really lean in that direction, but Chestnut Street's like really clear, but it's also like every town everywhere has a Chestnut Street school. Like there's nothing that makes it special to me, so I'm not like a huge fan of that.
Deb?
I originally liked Chestnut Street and Sixth Grade Odyssey, and then now I'm leaning towards Nonotuck. And I think still Sixth Grade Odyssey, I know Chestnut Street got the most votes, but it feels a little vanilla to me, so.
All right. Sarah?
So I would point out that we'll have to resolve the academy versus school issue before, as well as choosing the proper noun, I guess. My two favorites are Chestnut Street and Nonotuck. And I would just say that the reason Chestnut Street popped into my head is that we were reviewing names, and one of them was Mattoon Street. And then I suddenly realized, but the school, middle school isn't on Mattoon Street, it's on Chestnut Street. So thank you to whoever suggested Mattoon for putting us onto that line of thought. So, and I think I prefer academy to school. So either Chestnut Street Academy or Nonotuck Academy.
I'll say one more thing, which is, okay, and this might be controversial, and this is my opinion only. If I had a crystal ball, which I don't, my crystal ball would say that eventually Amherst sixth graders will be enrolled in the middle school. I think this is the first step towards that eventuality, which will happen 5, 10 years from now, I don't know when. As I said, it's my opinion only. I'm not saying that based on any information. That's just where I think we will end up. So to name a school Nonotuck and then unname or to take it away feels, it would be sad. But then to name it Chestnut Street and then take it away is like, well, the name of the street is still there. So that's like a very small reason that I wouldn't want to name it Nonotuck, in addition to the fact that it didn't get a lot of votes. So those are my 2 cents.
Can I say that's an interesting point, that if we do regionalize sixth graders, which I mean, I have no reason to think that'll happen anytime soon, but I know I think the state urges that in general. Yeah, to then lose that Nonotuck is like being erased again. So, but is that a reason not to do it for a while? I don't know.
So, Bridget, go ahead.
I think that there could also be no reason that at the region we couldn't vote to make that the name of our middle school.
That's a very good point.
Overall.
Very good point. Okay, so I'm hearing my top choice was Chestnut, Bridget's is Nonotuck, Deb's is Nonotuck, Sarah's is Chestnut or Nonotuck. Did I get that right? Okay, now I'm going to invite staff employees to chime in if anyone is interested. Dr. Z, go ahead.
So I'm gonna start off by saying, I've gotten very accustomed of calling it Amherst Sixth Grade Academy. that's where I've gotten very accustomed. But in listening to your conversations and the reasoning behind things, I would encourage us to be very mindful of when we dedicate the name of a place and we have to lose that name, and what that will entail and what ends up happening. We can't, as one district, determine what the region would do. Even if we think about bringing it forward, I'm sure they'll have to go through a very similar process. And there's no saying that when this does occur, that many of us will be there to explain the logic behind of where the Nonotuck conversation came from. But if we are honoring a culture, we need to be mindful of what that looks like moving forward. And then hearing the what you stated, Jennifer, about when the students transition, creating that semblance of you're transitioning to Chestnut Street. I never thought about it that way, but it does create a sense of, in Seth's words, marketing, but also ease when it comes to our fifth graders who are transitioning. Because technically right now we're telling them that they're going to the middle school building, which is on Chestnut Street, but we're creating this name that actually builds within a location. And so it creates this opportunity for them to correlate where they're going, not solely with middle school, but more so where they are located, which I go back to saying falls within the values and standard practices that Amherst has when it comes to naming their schools. So that would be my input. I actually would go for Chestnut Street Academy.
All right. Did that change anyone's mind towards Chestnut Street? We still have, of the 4 of us, 2 for Chestnut and 3 for Nonotuck.
Can I ask what people, I think I'm the only one who gave a second, 2 choices, so what others' second choices would be?
I think I said my second choice was 6th grade Odyssey.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
And Deb, too?
Mine as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bridget, if you had a second choice, what would it be?
Amethyst, no, sorry, just kidding.
No.
Yeah, I think 6th grade Odyssey is probably my second choice as well. And I think Dr. Z makes a good point, though, that said that and especially like our very next discussion is like about, well, does keeping the 6th grade separate make a lot of sense, whichever way it moves in the future. I think everybody acknowledges that there's likely to be some movement, for fiscal and other reasons down the line. So maybe choosing Nonotuck isn't a huge sign of long-term respect because it could be a transitional situation. Yeah.
Jennifer Reese.
Hi, all. Thanks. I just wanted to chime in to make the point that Odyssey could be confused with Odyssey of the Mind, which is an educational enrichment program, but it's branded and it lands in a very particular way. And so I have some concerns around that term and the way it might be perceived as like being affiliated with an already existing educational brand.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Marta, go ahead, and then Megan.
Yes, I would agree with Dr. Z in terms of either Chestnut Street Academy or Amherst Sixth Grade Academy. The Nonotuck reality, I would be afraid as a person of color that we would choose that name and then we would in a couple of years have to change it, and that would not be taken well. So that's something that makes me ponder whether we should consider that or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Megan?
Yeah, I echo a lot of the same concerns that you've echoed and of my colleagues. I actually originally come from upstate New York, where Indigenous culture and honoring our Indigenous peoples is pretty important. And there have been a lot of issues in the past in upstate New York utilizing names of Indigenous peoples and issues coming up regarding appropriation at a later point in time, or issues coming up similar that you guys have discussed with regards to erasure. And I would just want to be extremely cautious about us approaching that. I know that you discussed it with, I forget who you said you discussed it with before, but I just echo the same exact concerns that everyone else has mentioned. And I do really just like that continuation of trying to stick with local names and really show an appreciation towards local history, and naming it after the street that it's on, I think would kind of lean in that direction.
Thank you, Megan. Shannon?
I just want to say that I am really stuck on the sixth grade academy, just because it's just what we've been calling it, and so I'm just a little stuck on that. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Shannon. I mean, it wasn't one of the finalists.
Right.
We could still choose it, but I just don't know. Thank you. Mike?
Thanks. I worry that we're not choosing to name a school Nonotuck. We're choosing to name one grade in a building, so it's sort of like the least. You know what I mean? Right. I'm worried about that. The image of that, and I also kind of like the sixth grade academy because I think it provides clarity. I think it's gonna be a little bit confusing having the sixth grade in that building and it being separate. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Mike. Sarah, do you remember why we didn't put sixth grade academy on the list of finalists?
I don't remember that it was very popular, and my personal belief is it's just so incredibly bland and utilitarian. I mean, what kind of identity is that?
Yeah.
That's not a name.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like calling your school K-5 school. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe that's why we didn't. Thank you. Okay. I'm still pushing for Chestnut Street School. I don't feel comfortable naming it Nonotuck. I don't think I would vote for that. And now I'm second guessing Odyssey as well. Tanya, go ahead.
Not a name for the proper noun, but the academy. I like academy versus school.
Thank you. I as well I like Chestnut Street Academy. So I'm just going to ask, would anyone object to Chestnut Street Academy? And I guess I also want to ask, does anyone who really wanted Nonotuck would like to push for Nonotuck? Think about that, Dr. Z.
I would not be opposed to Chestnut Street. I would be opposed to, I mean, you didn't ask my opinion, you didn't really say, but I'm just saying, I would be opposed to Nanatucket because of everything that I've expressed and everyone else has expressed. I would say, if I had a vote, I would lean towards Chestnut Street Academy.
I will just say it's too bad that we can't, if we don't, that we feel that we can't choose Nanatucket. Maybe we had our chance with the elementary school, but it's too bad. This was an opportunity, or is an opportunity, to name those people who are gone. So maybe we'll have opportunities in the future.
Thank you, Sarah. Bridget?
Well, we could go back and do Nanatucket Elementary and Amethyst Academy, but it's all good. No, what did I want to say? I wanted to say, what about Chestnut Street 6th Grade Academy?
Why? Why? If I can just ask directly.
Yeah.
I think just so many of the staff were saying 6th Grade Academy, like, identifies really clearly what it is, takes some of the confusion out of the mix, and then it isn't quite as bland as not having a name at all, like in the way you pointed out so clearly, Sarah.
I think that's an interesting idea, Bridget. I think it's a mouthful, and I think people will end up either calling it Chestnut Street or calling it 6th grade. I don't think most people are going to say, I'm heading over to the Chestnut Street 6th Grade Academy. I don't know. Other thoughts?
I don't favor that amendment.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move that we name the 6th grade school the Chestnut Street Academy. Can I have a second?
Second.
Sorry, who was that?
Me.
Thank you, Sarah.
I did it.
Any discussion before we vote? Sarah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jennifer is a yes. Bridget?
Yes.
And Deb?
Yes.
Thank you all. We have 2 names for our 2 new schools. Thank you so much. All right, our next agenda item is, sorry, I have multiple windows open. Discussion and possible vote to have 6th grade students in the Amherst Public Schools attend school at an alternative location than the Amherst Regional Middle School. Now, I'm going to take a step back and first explain why we're having this discussion. So or why this is on the agenda. So at our November 18th Amherst School Committee meeting, Deb Leonard made this motion to put this item on tonight's agenda. To put on the agenda, discussion and possible vote to have 6th grade students in Amherst Public Schools attend school at an alternative location than the middle school. It was seconded by Bridget, and it passed with 3 yeses and 2 no votes. So that's why we're discussing it tonight, because the Amherst School Committee operates under democratic principles and democracy demands that we discuss it this evening. But before we begin, I want to bring up a serious concern. I posted the presentation that Deb sent me around 3:45 today when I received it, and I was taken aback that it includes proposals that would significantly impact Caminantes and Crocker Farm. This agenda item is about having 6th grade students attend school somewhere other than the middle school. That is the entire agenda item. There's no mention of Caminantes or Crocker Farm. If we were going to discuss significant changes to Caminantes or Crocker Farm, we should have posted it as such, as is required by open meeting law. As it stands now, I believe it would be a violation of open meeting law for us to discuss Caminantes or Crocker Farm. The reason that we post agenda items, and part of the reason that open meeting law exists, is so that members of the public can be made aware of topics we will be discussing and deliberating, so that they can give public comment, and so that they can attend or watch. And postings need to be sufficiently specific so that the public can understand what will be discussed. I contacted MASC this afternoon, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and I explained the situation in detail, and they confirmed that this would be an open meeting law violation. I also checked the open meeting law FAQ website, and it states in part, quote, "The Attorney General strongly encourages public bodies to postpone discussion and action on topics that are controversial or may be of particular interest to the public if those topics were not listed in the meeting notice." So I'm giving you, Deb, the benefit of the doubt that you did not intend for this to be an open meeting law violation, and I'm open to hearing how and why you believe this is not an open meeting law violation. And I want to invite you to respond, but I want to ask that for right now, you not talk about the merits of the proposal, but that you talk about why you think this is not an open meeting law violation.
I know, Jennifer, you mentioned this earlier, and I felt like I couldn't talk about it, and I didn't understand. You had called me and said you're concerned about this topic, and I didn't understand the nature of your concern. I cut off the conversation because
Indeed,
I was
yes.
concerned about violating open meeting law. So now that I do, I haven't thought about it this way, processing it. The pieces all fit together, but I see how, in order to discuss this one piece, it would be necessary to post the other piece. I'm just trying to think of a way of doing it. I mean, the slide deck's already up. I can zoom back and not talk about those parts of it. But the slide deck's already up. That's the best I can do.
So I'll call you in a second, Bridget. I'll respond and say, I hear you that all the pieces are connected.
Yeah.
And in order to talk about, and you know, changing one thing often requires changing other things, and it's like a waterfall effect. And I think that in order to have a robust conversation, I don't think it's inappropriate necessarily to have a robust conversation, but I think it needed to be properly noticed, and it wasn't. I do think it's fine. The slide deck is posted, yes, and that's how some people knew to show up and give public comment. People heard rumors, and then people saw the presentation, which was only posted this afternoon. And in addition, I think that there would have been many more people and much more public comment if more people had known, if we had properly posted it. So I do think it's, and so the slide deck is posted and there's nothing we can do about that, but we should, I believe that we shouldn't talk about Comunantes and Crocker Farm. I think we shouldn't even discuss it and not vote, because discussion is deliberation, and if we have this discussion and deliberation not having properly posted it, then I just don't, I think it would be a violation. I do think it's fine and appropriate for you to talk about the specific agenda item, which is sixth graders. Bridget.
Oh, thanks, Jennifer. I wanted to respond to two different things. The first one is that we've already discussed it a little bit in this meeting earlier tonight in the K-6 restructuring, which was listed and has sections on that. I'm not arguing actually for that. I think a great solution would be to skip past that slide and talk about the rest of the idea. But I do think that if this is a violation, then equally the pieces that we discussed earlier are probably also in violation. But I wanted to back up to something else where you're explaining the history of how the vote came up. And for me, this was a question and something that I'd been asking about since April, is like, when are we going to consider how this move works and how we came to this decision where we sort of have the sixth graders out on an island where a past school committee decided it was a great idea to build the school for K-5, and then we're expecting the sixth graders could be integrated into the middle school, and then they couldn't be. And so I'd been really wanting to see this on the agenda or brought up to Dr. Zian and mentioned it in different forms, you know, since last spring. So I just don't want it. I felt like there's some sort of idea, the way that it ended up coming to the agenda so late was only by us bringing it and like asking for a vote on it then. And I do acknowledge that it definitely does feel late in the game now, but I think it's still important to have a little bit of a public conversation, especially when we're looking at a $2 million deficit, which will be 29.4 teachers. You know, like that's a huge deficit. And in the end, I think it's really important to us to think as we have capital investment money from the town, we have past capital investment money. This is an opportunity where we might be able to use some of that capital investment money now that we wouldn't be able to come back for again, and look at and think about the question of, is this the wisest move? Is it better to put buildings over people, or is there some way to keep our sixth graders in the building we have them in? And on that note, I'll leave it to Deb because it is her presentation and her concept.
I'm going to say something and I'll call on Sarah about the fact that we've discussed this already tonight. I thought about that really hard in the moment when Derek and Elizabeth were here speaking, and I thought about stopping them, but also I wanted to respect our staff who had come to speak with us. Dr. Z had said that she didn't know that we have this agenda item about moving sixth graders somewhere else, and she didn't know where, and so she responded in the K through 6 update with what she saw as the options, which were Wildwood and Crocker Farm. So I didn't see it as necessarily she was responding to the information that she had, which was the way the agenda item was listed. And so I listened hard and I was prepared to jump in, but I didn't see that as a violation of open meeting law, because she was responding with all of the options that she saw as to where you all might suggest moving the sixth graders. So I didn't see that as an issue. Sarah, and then I'm going to go to Dr. Z.
Okay, I don't think.
And then Deb.
I don't think the superintendent or staff are subject to open meeting law. That's for elected officials. So I don't think that's a problem. I have many things to say, but if I didn't realize Deb was going to make a presentation or a statement or whatever, so I will wait for you to add. If you have more to say, I am ready to respond, but.
So we haven't established. We should talk about we should talk about what we're going to do next.
Oh, I don't think we should talk about the restructuring plan that they are presenting.
What about talking about the specific agenda item, which is on the agenda, properly noticed, moving sixth graders somewhere other than the middle school? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Z, and then I'm going to check in with Deb. Dr. Z, go ahead.
I just would like to clarify.
Dr. Z, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We need a 10-second break. Hang on.
That's why, Seth.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so I just want to clarify around my update. My update was providing an update around the K-6 restructuring. In that update, one of the sub-bullets was around considerations, because at our last meeting, it was brought forth around this discussion to move forward. With that, and being that I was never consulted prior to that meeting or did not know what the specific locations were, we wanted to, as a district, put forth what the limitations were and what our considerations were as we are working towards restructuring. So the bullet D that came in, as we shifted in terms of our planning and having the discussion around the last discussion, that is a part of my update to let you know, as a leadership team, these are the things that we discussed around the possible locations and what we can and cannot do. Additionally, my update was posted from Sunday evening to give the community and the school committee enough time to review. And if there were additional concerns around this, it could have been brought forward. But in terms of the K-6 restructuring update, I was updating the committee as well on what the leadership team has been discussing around the restructuring. And that was one of the topics that came up after our last meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Z. So Deb, I want to ask you, what do you think about how we should proceed?
I would like to discuss the agenda item. We can skip those slides. We can just take them, I mean, Seth, are you going to project them? We can just take those off
You just won't show them.
or not show them.
I mean, they're publicly
They're
posted.
still
s-
publicly
so
posted.
it's- We don't have to
we're
hide them, but we're
trying-
not going to talk
we're
about them.
trying to do a little bit of damage control, and I'm happy to do that. I do disagree with Sarah that the superintendent is not subject to open meeting law, because it was clear when we spoke with her at our retreat that the superintendent update needed to have individual items specified, or they shouldn't be listed as an update.
That's a school committee agenda requirement. That our agendas, our public meeting agenda, it's a requirement of the agenda, not of the superintendent specifically.
Well, it's a requirement of our meeting. So as conducting our meeting, we can't have, I just don't think we, okay.
Well.
So we have a different interpretation
Well,
of
so
that.
I will just say that the superintendent cannot violate open meeting law. That's
what I said.
If she presents something that wasn't on the agenda, that is the committee's violation.
Right. That's all I'm saying, is that we should not have allowed that discussion if that is the interpretation that we're going to take of it. I don't really, I'm ready to let the whole part go. So let's just move on.
Move on. Yep.
Ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so, Deb, you're going to make a presentation or say a few words?
I have some things to say beforehand, and
All right,
I have written it out.
all right, we're ready.
So I'd first like to say that I am sorry that this agenda item has caused anger, frustration, or confusion. I've been there, angry, frustrated, and feeling powerless. In some ways, it's easier to sit on this side because I have agency, but both sides are challenging. Nowhere in this job, however, do I understand my role is to avoid making people angry. And that's why I'm here today. I don't want to do it, and I tried to keep these things that keep cycling through my mind out, and I just felt like it was an important conversation to have. The new conversation, not the new, the original conversation, not the one from the slide deck. So when I first saw in November Tim Ammon's projected enrollments, I was concerned, and I think I was actually sitting in this seat, and for those of you who are listening, you might recall that I felt it was essential to find out if our projected K through 5 enrollments exceeded the combined building capacities of Crocker Farm and the new, and Amethyst Brook. Amethyst Brook Academy. Elementary. I'm just going to call it Amethyst Brook School. Okay. And then in October, when he presented an update, it had adjusted enrollment projections, which was great. It relieved that concern, but presented others. So I'd like to skip to my second slide, Seth, if you don't mind. I'm doing things out of order. The enrollment patterns. Okay. So on this slide, one of the things I've learned from my vast experience giving scientific things is that you need to explain your graph before you start talking about this. So what you see is the orange line, which represents the K through 5 enrollment, not the K through 6 enrollment. The K through 5, I checked it like 57 times, projected. So the enrollments presented to the town as part of the MSBA extensive process of looking at population. They have a methodology. I almost wrote it all out, and then I thought, why? So, but there's DESE enrollment and birth data. There's a packet, and they made it very clear that our trends were projected to go upward from 850-ish, 872, up to 1022, so over 1,000. And then there's Tim's data, which is the green line, and some of it is actual enrollment. So it started in 2020, and the actuals go all the way out to 2026, and then he projected out further at my request, at our request. But the first 5 years are kind of like you can count on it, and the last 5 years are not so certain. So, you feel pretty confident going out to 2021 and a little fuzzy past there. That data is flat. And everything I've heard from the dawn of my experience in this process is our enrollments are going to trend upward, and that's important. So, lots of things happen between then and now, and it doesn't really matter the cause, but what you're seeing, what I'm seeing, what I keep seeing, I just keep seeing this, that today we are our enrollment K through 6 is 956. And the MSBA at the time gave us what they considered an accurate estimate of our capacity to be the sum of 375 and 575, which puts us at 950. And it looks, again, nice and flat. And those capacities are 90% capacities. They're not full capacities. The full capacities of our buildings are much higher. So that's kind of what I got out of that. And it just kept coming back to this idea that somewhere along the line, my thinking changed on this. And small schools are very expensive to fund, and my experience with rural schools is that anything less than, I think it's 1,400, is really just cost ineffective. And then I started looking at what I call putting marbles in boxes, looking at, and I'm not going to go into the specifics, but, okay, actually. So then I started digging, and I went back in time to things like grade span advisory reports and just previous superintendents' presentations. And I saw other gaps developing. I saw documents that were really hard to find, first of all, but then within them, recommendations that were made, commitments that were made that weren't followed up on, not out of design, but simply because there were transitions. There was COVID. There were transitions within leadership. What else was there? There was this whole pivot already about whether or not the 6th grade could be part of the middle school, which was the original discussion. And in fact, the original discussion arose before the grade span advisory report from a regional facilities report designed to looking at ways to increase financial efficiency of the region. So where our 6th grade fit into all of this was discussed pretty extensively, and Nick Yaffe and Derek Shea and another principal who is no longer with us, who's no longer in the district, spoke really quite eloquently to the need to address as Nick said tonight, the fact that these people really are adolescents and should be in an adolescent environment. However, Nick, back in 2021, also spoke about the need to do it really carefully and really thoughtfully. And again, I don't think the process evolution is necessarily gappy by design, but it is. We don't have a budget yet. We don't know how much this is going to cost yet. We are facing wicked big deficits. Every dollar that we don't have to spend for leasing, for busing, whatever it is, or for paying people in other districts, which would be the region, for services, every dollar that we can keep in district to me, has the potential of benefiting our students and providing a higher quality educational experience because it allows us to keep money for teachers and staff. So this is what I've been wrestling with since October. I wanted to discuss it back in October. I did not have global support. Jennifer and I did come up with a path forward, which was to vote to put this in October. I wanted to discuss it. We ended up in November saying we could discuss whether or not to put it on the agenda for December. So it's not the most eloquent way of saying I'm doing the best I can, and I think it's really important for us to understand where we're coming from and where we're going, and whether it makes sense financially to pivot now. As I said back in November, there is no school committee who's ever looked at, could you go back to my slide? That.
Point of order. Just for
Wait, Bridget, hang on a second. We need to do a 10-second pause. Bridget. Okay, but I think we want to let Deb finish, and then I'll call on you, Bridget.
And I'm actually really
Just
relieved.
point of order that the slides aren't showing.
Oh, and you're buzzing again.
Okay, let's pause again. But the slides aren't showing
Where,
on the Google Meet, maybe?
on this,
Okay, sorry. Well, we're just looking at the first two slides of the presentation that was posted. So I'm sorry that I know it's probably hard for you to see. Huh?
she can't,
She can't hear you. Good. Okay.
oh.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. I just wanted to say that we're sorry that you can't see what's on the projector, but we're just looking at the first two slides of the presentation in this agenda item. All right, Deb, continue.
So thank you. So I'm actually kind of relieved we aren't going to vote options, because I just wanted to discuss the possibility of rethinking the whole thing. And I know the general status quo interpretations is too late, but I don't think it's ever too late to make a decision that might save the district from reducing staff. So, and again, thinking carefully about investment. I have spent almost 2 years now on this committee, and I've come to understand that the operating budget is the operating budget. And I've not been able to make much movement on looking at that end of the year surplus and saying, hey, can't you just give that to us at the beginning of the year? But I have been able to, through BCG and through discussions, budget coordinating group, and through discussions, expand my understanding of how we can use one-time money, town funds, to help support the district. And so that's why I want to talk about other options. Seeing if there's one-time money that can be invested to improve in our district. I'm stuck. Give me a sec. In a way that benefits the Amherst School District, the people who serve. I did not put these options forward as something I wanted to vote. I put the vote on the agenda item because it was my one shot to get everything out. I had one shot to talk about it, so I wanted to make sure that if there was a reason to vote something, that it was on the agenda, which didn't happen anyway. So I just want to end, I guess, with what I think are reasons to reconsider. So that would be my last slide. You know, I've worked on some of these parts with different people. The part that we're skipping, I did mostly myself, so you can blame me for that. But, you know, Bridget said it put people before buildings. She has some thoughts about student opportunity money possibly coming towards the district if we thought about putting these marbles in different boxes differently, and that would be a financial game changer, like game changer for the district. If we could leverage SOA money, we're talking about, I don't know, Bridget, you want to jump in here? I don't even know what.
Just from the numbers that Dr. Z gave herself of free and reduced lunch under different configurations, we start to get over the 35%, and that's just a different category in terms of the reimbursement per student. So that's one thing. I guess the reason that for me it was important that we consider and take a look at it comes right back to the fact that the MSBA approved the two schools, Crocker and Amethyst Brook, for a total capacity, not including the preschool, of 1,110 at 90% capacity. And right now we have 956, so we're almost 60 students. We're a little over that, 60 students less than that. So I just am wondering about all the work to put our sixth graders on an island when we may be able to keep them where they are, especially at this time when we're looking at huge budget cuts. So those are the reasons why for quite a while, I know in April and in May and in August, I was saying people are going to throw stones, because here I go again asking, like, why are we putting our sixth graders out here alone at the sixth grade academy, not as part of the middle school, not as part of others. I looked for models of this all over and found it very few and far between, and only in places like where this grade really needed serious remediation before being ready for middle school. So anyway, it just occurs to me this is the one opportunity where we're going to be making major investment and where we're going to be making a big shift for students in schools. And so if we were going to do that, would investing on Crocker Farm make sense, especially because our enrollment declines are projected to stay steady or go low, I think, with the one exception of a little bump ahead. And so I don't know, those are my thoughts on it. I wish we'd been able to discuss it months earlier, and I think it's disingenuous for people to say that we didn't really try to discuss it months earlier, because I myself personally brought it up in private and public again and again.
And my last part is, I think this idea of the sixth grade becoming part of the region is unrealistic. The towns that I've spoken to, Shutesbury is a flat out no way, no how. I don't know about Leverett. It will take all 4 towns to reopen the regional agreement. So maybe that would be an opportunity for Shutesbury to make a different decision. And here's why. If we reopen the regional agreement, the state requirement is that Amherst would get 80% of the votes. So we're sitting here with 9 of us. We already have the majority. We would overwhelm Leverett and Shutesbury every single time. They would not have.
Point of
they-
order.
no, no,
Just, Sarah, I'll call on you.
Okay.
They would not have equal representation. These are conversations I've had. So I think this is an important opportunity to pause and think about where we're going.
Sorry, Sarah, I will call on you. I'm going to call myself first.
Yeah.
I have a few comments and a question. First, I believe regarding the regional agreement, I believe we were informed that we can modify portions of the regional agreement without having to do redo the whole. There are portions of our regional agreement that are not current with current Mass General Law. And originally we thought if we touched the regional agreement, we'd have to bring the whole thing up to code or whatever. But I believe we were told that we wouldn't have to, but that's not even what we're talking about tonight. So I don't think that's true. I just wanted to comment that calling it saying that we're putting sixth graders on an island or saying the sixth graders are on an island, I think that is disingenuous because we're not putting them in their own building. We're putting them in the middle school. And yes, it's going to be a school within a school, but I prickle a little bit at the idea of a sixth graders in an island. Deb, you said something like it's never too late to do something, whatever that saves jobs or helps the budget, but I think it is too late. And again, I'm not saying this because it's December or because last month was November, but because it's 2025, I think it's too late. Like there are so many pieces involved in the plan that the district is working on right now. So many pieces that have already been put into place and that are continuing to be put into place. I mentioned today that I was the school committee representative on this negotiation with the APEA on an MOU about teachers who need extra days to move their classrooms. Like we're discussing that now for something that's going to happen in June and August, and because that's how far ahead you have to plan for something like that. And if we were to now talk about a whole other group of teachers that would need to move, like you have to plan these things so far in advance because there are so many details. I'll get you on the list. But my question is, can you, Deb, briefly tell me what problem or problems you're trying to solve? And I'm asking you just to name the problem or problems, not how this solves those problems, because that's a whole different thing, but I'm asking if you can name the problem or problems that you're trying to solve.
Financial problems and lack of an educational motivation in a compelling educational motivation at the expense of, at a considerable expense. I'm not saying there isn't one. I'm just saying we don't even know what it is. We don't know what the cost is. And we know that we're already going to have to cut a lot of staff, or the fairy godmother's supposed to appear.
Thank you. Sarah.
All right. I'm sure you already expect me to express strong disagreement with much that has been said, but I do know that Deb and Bridget, everybody has the best interests of the students and the district at heart. So I totally get that. But I feel the history, one issue seems to be unhappiness. Well, I feel that the history of how we got here is irrelevant. We are where we are, and we should focus on what is the best path forward. I agree with that final bullet. But I don't like Jennifer just asked, I don't really get the concern. If the concern is budgetary, you're jumping the gun by trying to guess at what the costs and benefits might be of changing. We're about to enter the detailed budget building part of the year, and I would think with a $2 million deficit at this point, a lot is going to be on the table. And we will address that in the larger picture when the time comes. We have to see, in fact, what would the costs be? We can't guess at what they are right now. Or conversely, what the costs would be of shifting gears and trying to fit these students into some other place, unspecified. So I don't think we can make any kind of decision about one program of our elementary school in isolation from all the others. So I think it's too soon to try to pass judgment on that. Secondly, if the concern is educational, I disagree. We have an excellent educational plan that appears to be nearly finished. Essentially the same education will be provided in any location, and there are some potential benefits of having the sixth grade academy able to take advantage of some of the middle school resources. Knock wood, the finances will allow that to happen. So, and I contrast that, well, another thing. You have pointed to enrollments. Enrollments can change abruptly, and we need a structure that can allow for growth that can happen suddenly and very simply, not because suddenly there's a baby boom or lots of people move to Western Massachusetts, but by the return of some of those students of ours who are currently attending other schools. If 12 of them decide to come back, and they're all in 3rd grade or something, or 5th grade, whatever. I mean, that just makes a really big difference. And to have the 6th grade somewhere else probably removes that flexibility and really puts us at risk of overcrowding, which would be really too bad. I also want to remind the whole committee and the public that the work that you are suggesting, that I know you wanted to do or maybe wanted to talk about, that we not take over or arrogate to ourselves the responsibilities of the superintendent, who is the chief education advisor and the chief executive of our system, take the responsibilities of the finance director, who knows more than we do about costs, and to take over the responsibilities of principals, who are responsible for the staffing and programs in their buildings. If any member has a concern about the wisdom of the 6th grade plan, the proper action would have been to make a motion months ago that the committee request the superintendent to determine whether the move was still in the best interests of the school, of those students and the school district as a whole. I fear that I've said it before, it is too late, if only because of the mountain of work that would be required of our administrators and building leaders who are already trying to build next year, who have 3 budgets at least to develop. In my view, it's too late. I think at this point, I wish we had such a motion 4 months ago, a formal motion to ask the superintendent to give us her recommendation about the current plan. But we didn't, and this is where we are, and it's going to be January and then August before we know it.
Deb? Democracy is slow. Especially when you have a good idea that other people don't want to hear, or at least an idea that you'd like to discuss. I have been hungering for information about the 6th grade move for a long time. I asked the former chair, I asked the current chair. I've asked other members of I've asked members of the district, and I've been stymied by lack of information. I appreciate the work that people do. I appreciate that they're doing the best they can with the ingredients they were handed. I think our superintendent has incredible skills. I think the finance director has incredible skills. I think Tanya is an amazing person. But we handed them a job. We didn't hand them a roadmap. We didn't get a roadmap. We don't have a budget. We don't know how much this is going to cost. And we do have access, possibly, to leveraging one-time money and possibly state money. And I think it would be, I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself. I already get up in the middle of the night worrying about these things. I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself if I didn't bring these concerns forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to do so. And I will respect the decision. Well, we don't have a vote, but I mean, I didn't really think we were going to vote in favor of it anyway, given the way the conversation went in November.
I'm going to go to Bridget first and then Dr. Z. Bridget, you are on mute.
You're still on
Somehow,
mute.
we still can't hear you. Hang on a sec. Hang on one second. You are
No.
unmuted, but for some reason we can't hear you. Hang on. Try again, Bridget.
Okay.
Oh, yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I think you asked for the problem you're trying to solve, and I know that, that you don't like the depiction of the sixth graders sort of out there on the island, and I agree. I think Tanya and the superintendent have worked tremendously to not make it that way as much as possible. But structurally, it was just, as I talked to people all over town when I was out door to door in the fall, people kept saying, why are the sixth graders going there all alone? Why aren't they part of the middle school? It doesn't make any sense. And I realized, oh, wait, I really don't have good answers to this. So one reason for me was the educational model, and that it didn't make much sense, especially when we know that K-6 with the model that they use right now of like swapping classrooms and having students get that experience of all of that as well does work pretty well. So it's like we're creating a model that solves a problem we don't necessarily have. The second thing is that the superintendent and Shannon, in probably about 10 meetings I've been in, have said repeatedly, 3 schools are more costly, significantly more costly to run than 2. And we're not going to realize the cost savings that we talked about. So those are the 2 problems that came up to my mind, right? Then you add an extra transition from students into this mini school, with the school within a school, to the middle school. And our middle schoolers are separate from the small town students, which I think goes, like, creates another transition, like socially at an age where the social stuff is top of mind. So those are some of the problems, like, just to answer Jennifer's question, that made me vote in favor of talking about it, and why I had emails to the chair and emails and conversations with the super, and in these meetings over and over again since last spring, thought, okay, I'd like us to consider this. I think Sarah is right that a formal motion should have been made, last spring when it was top of my mind. And that's just a learning curve for me as a member as well. I probably should have done that at that time, and was trying not to be like so directive or confrontational. And maybe I needed to like be more assertive so that people understood what I was trying to communicate. But then when everything came up at Fort River this fall, it reinforced that, hey, we should really be looking at this again. So I think in the end, let's be honest about the realisticness of the conversation. Any motion with 2 votes fails. Sarah and Sarah and Jen are really clear. They think we have to move forward with where we are. Me and Deb would like to see some strategic options and see the idea of keeping the 6th graders in the schools they're districted to put forward. But at the end of the night, I think me and Deb lose. So we don't have to stay up till, 11 or 12 talking about it, because you guys aren't going to change your mind. But I wanted to put these questions out there for a long time. And I still have many things to give me pause as we're looking at $2 million in budget cuts, and know that 3 schools are so much more expensive. Once again, I'll just say, like, I would like to see us be able to put the funds into people instead of buildings. And that I think this is maybe the one opportunity we might have to do it, because it's very hard to undo. And the very last thing I would say is, like, I'm afraid we're making like a sunk cost fallacies decision where we're going off, okay, we've done so much towards this, we can't make a change. But I think whenever you recognize that the path you're on may not necessarily be the best one, that it isn't a bad idea to think about a change. And that's all I wanted to do, was put it out there and think about it. I don't think we've convinced anyone, so we could probably all go home and go to bed.
Dr. Z and then Sarah.
I'm listening to the conversation and to the discussion. I wanted to chime in. Couple of things. I have a very skilled, talented, and gifted team. Each individual that comes in, thank you for calling some of us individuals gifted, so thank you for saying things about skills, but they work very hard. And I am truly thankful for the opportunity that this team has come together and pulled this together, and we're centered around children and the best thoughts of children. Every option. I did meet with Bridget and Deb last night before this meeting. And one of the things that I said, because Bridget mentioned it about April and prior, is that as we were talking about the options and different things and how I saw this, it was more so around, even when we came back and talked about, okay, too, no, this was voted down, Dr. Z, this whole process did have historical gaps. We did, even as a leadership team, have to pull various things together. That's why we divided our team in the way that we did, because it was best to divide and conquer and put our skills and talents in the areas where we flourish. One of the key things that I want to clarify is, yes, we would be running three schools, but we're running it in 2 buildings and 1 lease that we probably would incur less costs in terms of the operational or capital costs of running Wildwood. We need to look at the fact that we weren't even able to really get in or delve into the true budgetary impact of this, or what we can split and cost share amongst them, because as we're going through this planning phase, we also had to pause because of this possible discussion. In terms of transitions, placing the 6th grade somewhere else, you would then be creating a K-5 transition, a 6th grade transition, and a middle school transition. Even if they went into another building that was not, you would then be adding an additional transition, moving the 6th grade, because of the parameters that we put in place for the K-5 building. Yes, the 6th grade would be housed at the middle school, but it is not a physical or geographical transition. And the research talks about reducing transitions amongst grade levels for students. So for me and the team, one of the things is, as leadership, we're always talking about the future of the district. And if this conversation needs to come up, now if my input would be, now is not the time. We could look and project out. If we're looking at projections and enrollment changes, we projected for this year, and we didn't expect the influx that we experienced at the schools that we experienced, with the behaviors and needs that came in, because we can't, as a public school system, we can only provide services for the students that are in front of us and that walk into us. So we could project 20 students next year and end up with 55. Like, that is the reality of running a public school system. And so for me, in terms of my input in this conversation as your advisor, is that if we want to talk about the future of the district, let's look at the future and do like we did with everything else, but adequately plan for spacing, adequately plan and adapt for what it is. Like, the votes that were made, everything was in motion, and we are doing what we need to do to ensure that come August of 2026, we have schools open and we're able to educate the children of Amherst Elementary School District.
Thank you, Dr. Z. Sarah, and then I'm calling on myself.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. I said I would not vote to send the 6th grade somewhere else tonight. But again, because of the gigantic budget deficit, I don't know what might seem to be the best course, in 2 months. So, I mean, I'm not saying, I feel like anything could happen over the next couple months, but I wouldn't vote for such a change tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. So it seems like we're not going to have a vote tonight. Thank you for the discussion. I'm going to close this agenda item. Our last agenda item is future agenda planning. So I'm going to let the committee know that the next scheduled Amherst School Committee meeting is January 20th. I'm going to work with Dr. Z to post that agenda before my last day, because after January 5th, I won't be a school committee member, but until January 20th, you won't have a chair. So I'm going to post the agenda with help from with input from Dr. Z. And sorry, you guys should email me your ideas for agenda items. We're not going to talk about it right now. And so that meeting, as you all know, Dr. Z will open that meeting facilitating the election of a chair, and then the new chair will take it from there. Sarah.
So I would, I'm sorry, well, I would like us to consider having a brief organizational meeting right before Four Towns. I think it's important for this committee to get constituted, and figure out its office, its chair and its vice chair as soon as possible. I feel like so much is going to be happening. January 20th seems really late.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about, if there's going to be onboarding, if you're going to onboard new folks at all, or, and maybe you don't want that discussion now, but those are just some things I throw out there. But all of us will be at least invited to the Four Towns meeting, so that could be an opportunity.
An opportunity for what?
For an Amherst School Committee meeting, 10 minutes. To
Oh.
organize itself.
Huh.
That's all.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Deb, did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I went back to 2024. It seemed like we had a short structuring meeting early January during the last cycle. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're going to do. Or
I wasn't planning on it, but that would be me who would need to do it, and I think
Right.
that's a good idea. Bridget, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for thinking ahead. I think that's great. I was also thinking ahead because I recognize as vice chair that in the absence of the chair, that then I would take that. And one thought that I had was we meet as the region. And I forget if the date is January 5th or something like that, and to maybe do a short organizational meeting then. So I also had a similar thought to Sarah's. And then I don't know about the January 20th meeting. I just am thinking that as long as we send agenda items, I guess that's fine by me.
When is the region meeting?
Sarah Bess intends to call it for Monday the 5th, right during the ceremonial swearing in, unfortunately, which is why I emailed everybody to get sworn in. But she hasn't posted it.
Right.
So I didn't want to suggest that date. Anyway.
Okay, Deb and then Dr. Z.
I had some thoughts about onboarding just because
Okay, I'm sorry. We're talking about future agenda planning.
it is part of the
Okay.
agenda planning. Because I had ideas for what would have been helpful to me. So I think that could be part of a future agenda item. Onboarding could be a future agenda item, and I have an idea about at least what I would have benefited from.
Dr. Z?
Our policy, BIA, outlines new school committee member orientation and what we're supposed to follow. It outlines that the meeting is with the chair and the superintendent, and what the superintendent will provide each new elected member with. So for me, I think that in terms of our meeting dates, is quite difficult in January because the calendar is set. And I know, Jennifer, that's why we're looking at the January 20th date, because that's already set. I think at this point we have about one already pre-joint committee meeting date that's happening on the 27th, where we're going to reread a whole host of policies and vote on different things. On the 5th, we have the region. On the 6th, I have Pelham. So there's a series of things that are happening week after week after week in January. So I think that we could just put it as an agenda planning item and then look at the calendars. But honestly and truly, just for Deb, for your comment, there is a policy in terms of orientation, and in terms of the calendar and organizing, it's quite tight in January.
Well, what do you think of my idea of just doing it 10 minutes before Four Towns starts?
The organizational
Just
meeting.
organizing.
Yeah.
Just electing a chair and vice
Yeah.
chair and a
Yeah.
secretary, yeah.
If I'm not opposed, but I know it has to be a part of our public meeting. So we would be calling to order and then
Yeah.
closing for 10 minutes.
Yep, yep.
I'm
It
not
would have to be
And-
posted, early that week by
Well, I
who,
would-
I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. I would post it now-ish, like in December.
I would like to see that, like to try that.
Are there any objections to doing a 9 a.m. on January 10th meeting just to reorganize?
I thought we were talking about the 5th.
Sarah said the day of the Four Towns meeting.
Oh, no.
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We could also think about,
Yeah, go ahead,
we
Jen.
could also think about doing it on January 5th at 5:30 or 6, assuming that the regional meeting is going to be at 6:30.
Right, I would just ask, I think you would just need to confirm with Sarah Best that she is going to post a meeting.
Yeah,
Because
that
it might
might-
not happen till,
Yeah, well, I can at least ask her what time she's going to
Right,
post
and
it for.
there's-
That might be better than the 10th, because it will be here, and it will be Amherst Media, and like, as
Mhm.
opposed to like doing it in the middle school library or whatever.
I would just remind, both of you that the offices, or Amherst, the town hall will be closed a bunch of days
Yeah, okay.
leading up to that, so. Not an issue for board docs, yeah.
Bridget, did you have a comment? No, yeah? Oh,
No, you said what I was gonna say.
Okay, Dr. Z?
I would just ask that we check the calendar.
Yeah.
So I hear the options, but I'd like us to walk
Yeah.
through the calendar before we make a decision.
Okay, well, I'll check with Sarah Bess. Dr. Z and I have an agenda planning meeting for this Thursday, planned for this January, so we'll figure something out. But that's a good idea to have an organizing meeting earlier. Okay, I move we adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
Sarah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Deb?
Yes.
Jennifer's a yes. Bridget?
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Now that
Bye.
we're adjourned,